Their senior brother Huo Chen will never let you off easily. If you ever encounter him one day, avoid him if you can, and do not invite unnecessary suffering upon yourself.
As far as I know, he has already broken through to the Golden Core realm. Your meager strength is not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth.
Fang Chen rubbed his nose and muttered, if we really do cross paths, he would be the one scrambling to avoid me. Having suffered a crushing defeat at Fang Chen's hands, Huo Chen had no face to appear before him. It was more than likely he would take the initiative to avoid Fang Chen from afar to spare himself further embarrassment. Lin Yu Heng was standing close by and heard Fang Chen's mutter clearly. She froze for a moment. Why would Huo Chen avoid you? It would already be a blessing if he does not come looking for trouble with you. Why would he avoid you? Mid-sentence, Lin Yu Heng trailed off. An extremely absurd thought popped into her mind. Boy, was Huo Chen present at the Taishang Sect's Disciple Grand Tournament that day. Fang Chen nodded. He was. Gulp, Lin Yu Heng swallowed hard. Then when you defeated one Taishang Sect genius after another, he did not step into the arena. Fang Chen said, he did, of course. Thump thump, Lin Yu Heng's heart began to race. Then you two fought. Fang Chen nodded again. It was quite intense. In that instant, every person present's eyes went wide with shock. Fang Chen had actually fought Huo Chen, the chief senior brother of Taishang Sect, the sect master's first disciple, and a Golden Core realm powerhouse. Liu Wenchen drew in a sharp breath, his eyes locked unblinkingly on Fang Chen. At this moment, not only was Lin Yu Heng looking at Fang Chen in a completely new light, even he, as his master, felt an overwhelming sense of unfamiliarity. Was this really his own disciple? When Hongyao wore an expression as if she had seen a ghost, heavens, when did Fang Chen grow strong enough to fight a Golden Core realm cultivator? Lai Qingfeng's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. Golden Core realm, even if he lost the fight, that alone was already shockingly impressive. Lin Yu Heng's gaze was fixed tightly on Fang Chen, and she asked with a faint glimmer of hope, what was the outcome? The gap between the Foundation Establishment realm and Golden Core realm was as vast as the chasm between heaven and earth. The difference in spiritual power was multiple times greater.
Even putting aside the difference in their cultivation methods, the spiritual power gap alone was enough for a Golden Core realm cultivator to easily crush a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator, leaving almost no room for a turnaround. Fang Chen's odds of victory were negligible. She held only a tiny sliver of hope and no real expectations. However, Fang Chen's answer struck like a bolt from the blue, leaving her mind completely blank. Of course I won. Those 6 words crashed like thunder, leaving her dazed and unfocused. Not only had Fang Chen fought a Golden Core realm cultivator, he had won. Liu Wenchen also felt his mind reeling and stammered, why, you won against the chief disciple of Taishang Sect. When Hongyao's face was also blank with shock, wait, how did you win? That is Huo Chen, the prized disciple of the Taishang Sect master. Lai Qingfeng and the numerous elders were also equally disbelieving. Fang Chen defeating Lai Shiqian was already an unbelievably bizarre anecdote that they could barely accept, but the claim that Fang Chen had beaten the chief disciple of Taishang Sect. None of them could bring themselves to believe it. Even Lin Yu Heng, after regaining her senses, wore an expression of full disbelief. It is not that I wish to doubt you, but this result is simply too shocking. May I test your physical strength? A physical constitution at the 8th layer of Foundation Establishment realm, defeating a Golden Core realm cultivator. Even if Huo Chen stood still and let him attack, Fang Chen would not necessarily be able to win. Fang Chen said, there is no need for that. His current physical constitution was worlds apart from what it was when he was at Taishang Sect, so such a test would be completely meaningless anyway. However, Liu Wenchen said in a tight, rapid breath, test it. Why would we not? I also want to know just how strong my disciple's physical constitution has become. Fang Chen frowned deeply. Seeing his reluctance, Lin Yu Heng said, do not be nervous. I will have Qingxu do it. She is a girl, very gentle. If you are still worried, I will have her stand perfectly still and take 1 strike from you to test it. Ryu and Qingxu scrambled back in terror. Master, if you wish to take a new disciple, say so outright. Taking a strike from Fang Chen unresisting. What ridiculous joke is this? Judging from her prior spar with Fang Chen, every one of his methods was staggeringly formidable. How could his physical physique possibly be weak? He was absolutely far more powerful than the first level of Golden Core realm. Even if they fought face to face, she might be beaten to death with a single punch by this little freak, let alone standing still to take the hit. Was this not sending her to her grave? She had heard of masters who threw their disciples under the bus, but never one who did it so egregiously.
Lin Yu, Heng snapped in annoyance. Come here.
Far from complying, Yu and Qingxu kept retreating further back. No, I will never spar with him, not even if you beat me to death.
Between angering her master and being beaten to death, she chose the former without a moment's hesitation. Lin Yu, Heng's face turned green with rage. Her own precious disciple did not even dare to spar face to face with Fang Chen.
The girl might have no shame, but she, as her master, still had her reputation to uphold. You good, for nothing wretch.
Humiliated beyond measure, Lin Yu, Heng snarled, once we return, you will face a full year of confinement to meditate on your mistakes. No, 3 years.
Smoke was practically billowing from her crown in her fury. She then turned to Fang Chen with an awkward expression, saying, It seems this old woman will have to test you personally. I will stand perfectly still. You pour all your physical strength into a strike, and I shall see exactly how far your physique has progressed.
The corner of Fang Chen's mouth twitched. This line was far too familiar. Both the Spirit Beast Sectmaster and the Joyous Sectmaster had said the exact same thing before.
Seeing there was no way to refuse, he said helplessly, Very well. Senior Lin, please be careful.
Lin Yuheng chuckled softly. Even if his physique truly was only at the first level of Golden Core Realm, how could he possibly harm her, a powerhouse of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion? Remember to use your full strength. Fang Chen nodded, immediately activating his Dragon Elephant Battle Physique, while simultaneously employing the ultimate move of his body refinement technique, Heaven Splitter. A fist brimming with boundless force slammed straight into Lin Yu. Heng's shoulder. Dong. A dull, metallic clang rang out across the air. Lin Yu Heng's body swayed slightly, otherwise she appeared completely unperturbed.
A look of approval flashed in her eyes. Not bad, not bad. Your physique is indeed at the first level of Golden Core Realm. No wonder you could defeat Hua Xianchen. I believe it now.
She then cupped her hands in greeting to Liu Wenchen once more. Congratulations. Your disciple's body refinement talent is truly enviable. Bring him to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion when you have
time. I can introduce several body refinement experts to give him guidance. Our business here is concluded, so I shall not disturb you any longer. Qingxu, we are leaving. With that, she headed down the mountain with her hands clasped behind her back. Liu Wenchen watched her leave with a strange expression on his face, muttering, Why did she leave so suddenly, and in such a hurry? I even planned to host a grand feast in her honor. But right now, the most important matter was Fang Chen. His face was alight with excitement. You actually defeated Hua Xianchen. No wonder. This is the real reason the Supreme Sect Master reported you. You completely shattered his pride. When Hongyao also could not hold back her laughter. If you ask me, the Supreme Sect Master was still too kind. If I were in his position, and a disciple from an outside sect dared to cut through all the elite disciples of the Supreme Sect and defeat my most prized disciple, there is no way I would let him walk out of the Supreme Sect unscathed. Lai Qingfeng said with a helpless chuckle, We wronged the Supreme Sect Master. We thought he was making a mountain out of a molehill, but it turns out he truly suffered a monstrous grievance. If I were him, one report letter would be nowhere near enough. I would have written 100 of them. Sensing their cheerful atmosphere, Fang Chen could not help but smile. He wondered if such joy and ease would still exist when the beast tide swept across the lands of the 9 sects. At this thought, his desire to raise his cultivation strength grew even more urgent. He cupped his hands in greeting and said, Master, this disciple wishes to go to the front lines of the Giant Sect to earn military merits. Only with merits can I exchange for enough cultivation resources from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. The smile faded from Liu Wenchen's face. He sensed Fang Chen's resolve to leave. Though he was reluctant to let him go, he knew that keeping Fang Chen in the sect would only hold him back. I will arrange a first-level mission for you at the Giant Sect. Before you depart, is there anything you need? Your master will do his best to prepare it for you. If there was anything he needed, it was naturally resources to break through to the Golden Core Realm. On his way back from Fangjian Gate, he had already fully consolidated his perfect 9th level of Foundation Establishment Realm. He only needed a suitable medicinal pill to attempt breaking through to the Golden Core Realm. However, how could the Qingxu Sect possess such an elixir? He would have to find the materials and refine it himself. According to the I Tei Soul Technique /I, the best medicinal pill for breaking through to the Golden Core Realm is the Qingxu Elixir. Ordinary pills for breaking through to Golden Core are 3rd rank, but the Qingxu Elixir is a high, grade 4th rank elixir.
After consuming it, a warrior at the perfect 9th level of Foundation Establishment Realm has a 100% chance of breaking through to the Golden Core Realm. Even more heaven-defying, there is a chance for the consumer to break through directly to the 2nd level of Golden Core Realm. Since Fang Chen intended to break through to Golden Core, he would naturally prepare the best possible elixir for it. Master, do you know where I can find the 7 colored mystic ice and the void lotus? These 2 are the main ingredients for the Qingxu Elixir and cannot be replaced by any other materials. Hearing this, Liu Wenchen was stunned. What do you need these 2 items for? They are one of a kind heavenly treasures across the entire 9 sects lands. Fang Chen's spirit jolted. Judging from his tone, Liu Wenchen actually knew where these 2 materials were located. These were extremely rare materials, and he had not held out any hope to begin with. This disciple wishes to use them to increase his strength. Fang Chen answered vaguely. Liu Wenchen had no reason to doubt him, as both items were heavenly treasures that offered immense benefits to warriors. He did not keep him in suspense, saying, "There is only one void lotus in the entire 9 sects lands, and it is in the hands of the Giant Sect Master. I am afraid it will be very difficult for you to obtain it. Given Fang Chen's history with the Giant Sect, how would the Giant Sect Master possibly hand this item over to him?" Hearing this, Fang Chen's face fell. Why did it have to be in his hands of all people? Then what about the 7 colored mystic ice? Fang Chen asked again. Put all other concerns aside for now. We shall handle matters one by one. Liu Wenchen's expression softened slightly. 7 colored profound ice is comparatively easier to obtain. At the border between the Supreme Sect and the Giant Sect lies a 7 colored ore mine abundant in 7 colored stones. On rare occasions, 7 colored profound ice of astounding value can be found there. You may go try your luck. With that, he took a jade pendant from his waist and said, "This mine is jointly owned by the 9 great sects. Our Azure Cloud sect has also set up a temporary outpost there with disciples stationed. Take my jade pendant, and you may seek their assistance when needed." Fang Chen accepted it gladly, then bid farewell one by one to Liu Wenchen, the several elders, as well as Liu Ruxu and Chen Xiling, who stood among the disciples gazing at him with tender affection. Just as he was about to depart, when Hongyao's ears suddenly twitched as if she had heard something. Her complexion stiffened for a moment, and she spoke hastily. "Fang Chen, wait for me at the foot of the mountain for a moment. I have a matter to entrust to you." Liu Wenchen and the several elders wore confused expressions. What matter could not be spoken of publicly that required such secrecy? Fang Chen was also puzzled. He was heading to the front lines of the Giant Sect after all. What could he possibly help with? But since it was a request from Wen Hongyao, as long as it was not overly troublesome, he would naturally not refuse. Understood, Elder Wen. At that same time, Lin Yuheng, who had left Azure Cloud City, had not spoken a single word the entire journey, moving at great speed out of the city gates. When she reached a bend where Azure Cloud City was no longer visible behind her, she finally could hold on no longer. Leaning against a stone by the roadside, she spat out a mouthful of blood with a retch. The searing pain coming from her shoulder blade made her grimace uncontrollably. She did not need to look to know that her shoulder was horribly swollen and red. "Brat, you struck so hard," Lin Yuheng muttered half annoyed. Only she knew just how agonizing the palm strike Fang Chen had landed on her shoulder blade was. If she had not been determined to uphold the dignified image of a Heavenly Secrets Pavilion commissioner, she would have cried out in pain on the spot. She held back the entire way, only daring to spit out the blood pooled in her throat once she was somewhere no one could see her. PFFD Wa. Ryuan Qingxu had long felt that her master was acting strange, walking so quickly, not saying a word. Most likely she had been injured by that little monster Fang Chen and dared not show it, and sure enough, that was exactly the case. Though she clapped a hand over her mouth, she could not help but snort with laughter. Now her master would finally know just how monstrous Fang Chen was, right? Let's see if she ever dares to stand still and let Fang Chen punch her again in the future. Lin Yuheng glared at her in embarrassed fury. "Get me a healing medicinal pill at once, you insolent disciple." Ryuan Qingxu fought hard to hold back her laughter. Ryuan Qingxu handed over the elixir and spoke in a schadenfreude-laced tone. "Master, you are already at the late Golden Core realm. How could you fail to withstand a single strike from Fang Chen?" Lin Yuheng shot her a sharp glare. Losing face in the Azure Cloud Sect was bad enough, but now she was making a fool of herself in front of her own disciple. She poked Yuan Qingxu on the forehead and said, "Even late Golden Core cultivators are still made of flesh and blood, are they not? You have no idea how heavy that brat Fang Chen's punch is. I estimate that even a third-layer Golden Core cultivator could be beaten to death with a single strike from him." Yuan Qingxu immediately stopped laughing.
Thinking of their fight the previous night, she could not help but shiver, and said with a click of her tongue, "It truly is a blessing from my ancestors that I managed to escape alive."
She had only been joking when she spoke of her ancestors' blessing before, but now she truly believed she had been protected by her forebears. If she had fought for just a little longer yesterday, Fang Chen would have closed the distance and landed a punch on her. She dared not imagine how gruesome the outcome would have been.
Lin Yuheng frowned and said, "Why are you still slandering him?" Yuan Qingxu stamped her foot. "Master, you still don't believe me. Why would I frame him for no reason?"
Lin Yuheng was stunned for a moment, but recalling the account Yuan Qingxu had given, she still shook her head. "It is not that your master does not believe you, but what you say is too absurd. 10 times more absurd than Fang Chen possessing such a formidable physique. Enough, do not mention this matter again."
"Come with me to the 7, colored mine. Intelligence indicates that a powerful demonic beast has been lurking nearby recently, and I will eliminate it while I am passing through."
Yuan Qingxu wore a speechless expression. Why would no one believe her? Fang Chen was truly a little monster. Why did none of them believe it?
At the foot of the mountain, Fang Chen leaned against the stone gate.
He had not waited long before when Hong Yao finally arrived, followed closely by a 6-year-old little girl with twin ponytails, wearing a crumpled black dress and possessing a cold, stern gaze. Fang Chen recognized her as the little girl who had snuck into the medicinal garden earlier. She was as pretentiously mature as ever, her hands clasped behind her back like a grown adult, her gaze cold and stern, with no trace of a smile on her face. Fang Chen laughed and said, "Little girl, did your parents spank you when you got home last time?" As he spoke, he could not help but pinch her chubby little cheek. The little girl bared her teeth and snarled in a childish voice, "Show some respect." Fang Chen could not help but laugh out loud, rubbing her head as he said, "Why are you still so fiery? Tempered for someone so small. Be careful, or I'll go complain to your parents." When Hong Yao, who stood to the side, was sweating bullets for Fang Chen. The little girl before them was none other than Qin Wangxuan, the supreme elder of their medicine peak, who was notoriously short-tempered. For Fang Chen to be so disrespectful, and for her to only let out a single complaint instead of twisting his hand off, was unheard of. When Hong Yao cleared her throat and said, "Fang Chen, since you already know her, I won't waste time on introductions. The matter I want to entrust you with is to take her to the Giant Sect frontlines." What? Fang Chen pointed at Qin Wangxuan and said in shock, sending such a small child to the frontlines. He could barely believe his ears.
Setting aside the beast tides at the front lines, the Giant Sect territory was currently packed with cultivators from all forces, a chaotic mix of good and evil, with law and order completely broken.
Down sending her there, did they not worry she would run into danger?
When Hong Yao was speechless, what was wrong with the front lines? What beast king would be foolish enough to provoke her?
Just take her to the Giant Sect city and drop her off, that's all. You don't need to worry about anything else, when Hong Yao said. Fang Chen's brows furrowed into a tight knot. Where are her parents? I need to ask them first. Elder Wen is truly being absurd here.
When Hong Yao spoke haltingly, her parents have been deceased for many years. Back when I became Qin Wangxuan's disciple, both of her parents were already gone. It has been no less than a full
60-year cycle to this day. Fang Chen's expression shifted slightly, and a flicker of pity stirred in his heart, so she was an orphan with no parents to rely on. He sighed softly and asked, "Elder Wen is sending her to the Giant Sect city. Are there relatives of hers residing there?" Fang Chen could think of no other possible reason for this arrangement. When Hong Yao rubbed his nose and nodded, "You will know what to do once you arrive, that is all. All right, she is now in your care." With that, he turned and hurried back, his face carrying the obvious, relaxed look of one who had just cast off a heavy burden and gained complete freedom. Gazing at the little girl who had just been left behind like this, Fang Chen could not help but laugh and sigh at the same time. "Elder Wen truly has the nerve to hand you over to me." The little girl had her hands clasped behind her back and gave a soft huff through her nostrils. "She cannot wait for me to leave, let us set off." Fang Chen laughed out loud, grabbed her by the collar, and lifted her straight onto the carriage.
She waved her tiny fist in protest midair, saying, "I warn you, treat me with proper respect. The consequences of making me angry are severe." Fang Chen chuckled as he leaped onto the carriage, and while driving onward, he asked, "Since Elder Wen has entrusted you to my care, you will behave obediently along the way. I will do everything in my power to deliver you safely to your destination." The little girl curled her lips disdainfully. "It would be more accurate to say, I will be the one protecting you." Fang Chen laughed heartily. This little girl had no other notable quirks, save for an extremely stubborn mouth that always had to have the last word in any exchange. Fang Chen asked, "What is your name?" "Qin Wangxuan." "That name sounds far too old-fashioned. I will call you Chuan from now on. Qin Wangchuan flew into a rage. You are courting death. Do not call me that nonsense, or I will truly lose my temper. Fang Chen then asked again, how old are you this year? Fang Chen kept addressing her as Chuan, incessantly asking, Chuan, what relatives do you have in Giant City? Chuan, why are you clenching your fists? Why are you gritting your teeth like that? Qin Wangchuan was on the verge of breaking down. She was old enough to be Fang Chen's grandmother, yet he kept calling her the childish name Chuan over and over. Who could possibly understand the sheer frustration she felt right now? To make matters worse, Fang Chen was the cherished treasure in the eyes of several grand elders of the sect. On this trip, she first had official business to handle at the Giant Sect, and second, she had been advised by the grand elders to accompany Fang Chen and escort him part of the way. Thus, she could neither beat him nor scold him. Fuming with rage, she could only grit her teeth, sit back in the carriage compartment, and stew in silence. The horse hooves clattered steadily onward, the beautiful scenery of mountains and rivers passing by in a blur. 8 days of travel slipped by in the blink of an eye. Fang Chen stood atop the carriage, gazing out at the rolling, towering mountain ranges on the horizon, and called out, Chuan, the border between the Grand Supreme Sect and the Giant Sect lies. Just ahead, one of the mountains refracted 7, colored radiant light under the sunlight, appearing extraordinarily beautiful. That was the 7-colored mine, the place famed for producing precious 7-colored stones. Qin Wangchuan poked her head out, then immediately retracted it with no interest whatsoever, saying in a flat tone, travel another 100 lie ahead, and you will see the outpost established here by our Azure Cloud sect. If you wish to inquire about the whereabouts of the 7-colored mystic ice, you only need to ask the deacon in charge of the outpost. Fang Chen was taken aback. Why do you speak as if you have been here before? To his astonishment, after driving the carriage 100 lie forward, he indeed saw clusters of hastily constructed wooden huts at the foot of the mountain. Hanging prominently in front of one of the huts was a plaque bearing the 5 characters, Azure Cloud Sect Outpost. Chuan, you really have been here before? Fang Chen asked curiously. Qin Wangchuan rolled her eyes. She had far more than just been here before. Back when the 7-colored mine was first discovered, powerhouses from the 9 major sects fought fiercely over mining rights. She had charged straight into the fray, battling many powerful cultivators to seize a prime mining territory. These very wooden huts had been built under her orders. She said impatiently, stop chattering, hurry up and take care of your business. Fang Chen had long grown accustomed to her arrogant tone that was wildly mismatched with her tiny appearance, just as she had slowly grown used to the name Chuan. Fang Chen chuckled as he drove the carriage up to the wooden huts, where he saw a middle-aged man around 40 years old, wearing a worn Azure Cloud sect robe, directing several disciples to sort through piles of pitch-black stones. Seeing Fang Chen's carriage approaching, the middle-aged man looked him over and asked, who might you be? Fang Chen leaped down from the carriage, took out his identity token, and said, I am Fang Chen, a disciple of the Sect Master's Peak. Greetings, Deacon. Fang Chen thought to himself, this middle-aged man before me is undoubtedly the person in charge of this outpost, a deacon, rank sect member. Upon hearing this, the middle-aged man's expression remained calm, with no trace of warmth towards a fellow sect member. On the contrary, he seemed somewhat hostile towards Fang Chen. He nodded slightly. I am Lin Fanhai, the deacon in charge of this outpost. Are you here on official sect business? The unspoken implication was clear. If he had not been sent by the sect, he should leave at once. This icy cold attitude made Fang Chen pause for a moment, but he quickly understood the reason. Deacons who remained within the sect had light duties, enjoyed the advantage of being close to the core of the sect, and had access to the best medicinal pills, heavenly materials, and earthly treasures, cultivation methods, guidance from elders, and many other resources. Those who were dispatched to the 7-colored mine, by contrast, were stuck in a desolate, barren place with no resources to speak of. It was only natural that they harbored resentment in their hearts. Fang Chen smiled faintly and took out some leftover materials from when he had refined Foundation establishment pills from his bosom, saying, This disciple came to the 7-colored mine by chance. To pay a visit to you, Deacon, and the fellow senior brothers here. I did not prepare any formal gifts, so please accept these small materials I have on hand as a token of my regard. The disciples, tending to their tasks, immediately lit up at the sight of these valuable materials. They set down their work one after another, stepped forward, and cupped their fists in gratitude. This junior brother is far too polite. Trapped in this bitter, frigid desolation, we barely see any decent treasures all year round. These materials for Foundation establishment pills count as exceptionally rare, precious goods here. Lin Fanhai's cold expression softened slightly. Though the items were not extraordinarily precious, Fang Chen did not carry himself with the arrogant, lofty air of previous envoys dispatched by the sect. Instead, he showed the full respect befitting his position as deacon. "You have traveled a long way. Come in and have a cup of tea to wash away your weariness, Lin Fan," I invited. This was exactly what Fang Chen intended, but he could not leave Chuan alone in the carriage. He turned and walked to the compartment, lifted her down from the carriage in one motion, and said, "Deacon Lin, it is unsafe for this child to stay in the carriage alone. May I bring her with me into the outpost?" Lin Fan, I frowned slightly. Why was there a child? Fang Chen himself was only an 18-year-old youth, yet he ran around with a small child in tow. Truly, he had no idea of the dangers of the cultivation world. He nodded. "Bring her in. Just do not let her run around unsupervised." As he spoke, he cast a casual glance at the little girl. That single glance nearly scared his soul right out of his body. That was Grand Elderkin. Lin Fanhai's soul trembled violently. He could scarcely believe his own eyes. He had been a veteran disciple of Qingxu Sect for decades. How could he not recognize his own Grand Elder? He shuddered on the spot and was about to step forward to greet her reverently when Qin Wangxuan gave him a subtle, unnoticeable look ordering him to stop. Lin Fanhai had earned his position as deacon precisely because he was adept at reading expressions and moods. He immediately halted his movements but was thrown into utter disarray, his heart thudding wildly in his chest. Only one elder came to this outpost each year to audit the mining accounts. Apart from that, it was extremely rare for any high-ranking figure from the sect to visit. Why had such an exalted, towering figure suddenly appeared here? Deacon Lin, is something amiss? Fang Chen was confused. Why had the man suddenly frozen in place like a wooden statue mid-step? Lin Fan, I fixed his gaze forward and saw that Fang Chen was actually holding Qin Wangxuan's hand, clearly completely unaware of her terrifyingly lofty status. He suddenly realized that Grand Elderkin was deliberately testing this young disciple, which filled him with deep respect for Fang Chen, instantly raising his opinion of the youth tenfold. After all, Grand Elders only deigned to assess those they thought highly of. The Grand Elders had withdrawn from worldly affairs for many years. How could someone worthy of their personal assessment be an ordinary cultivator? All of a sudden, he caught sight of several outpost disciples smugly showing off the materials Fang Chen had given them to each other. Icy cold dread shot up from the soles of his feet straight to his skull, accepting gifts right in front of the Grand Elder. Were they tired of living? He rushed over immediately, snatched the materials right out of their hands, and berated them harshly. "Who gave you permission to accept things from Junior Brother Fang? What have I been teaching you all this time?" The few disciples were dumbfounded. "You never taught us anything about that, and when Junior Brother Fang gave us the materials just now, you didn't say a word either. Why are you flying into a rage all of a sudden?" Lin Fan, I held the pile of materials in both hands, handed them back to Fang Chen with an awkward smile, and said, "My apologies for the embarrassment, Junior Brother Fang. They have been stuck in this barren land for too long. They do not know better than to hanker after trivial treasures. Take these back. I cannot accept them." Fang Chen was also utterly confused. What act was Lin Fan putting on? Why did he suddenly seem like a completely different person? But how could he take back a gift he had already given? "Deacon Lin, there is no need for such formality. They are just trivial items. Do not stand on ceremony," Fang Chen said. Lin Fan was about to refuse again when he saw Qin Wangxuan glance at him impatiently out of the corner of her eye. He stumbled in fright and did not dare to press the matter any further. He said hurriedly, Well, let's go inside first to discuss things further." He immediately turned to berate the disciples. "What are you waiting for? Go boil water at once, and bring out the cloud mist tea too." The few disciples froze for a moment. One of the older disciples glanced at Fang Chen. He said in an uncertain tone, "Deacon, we only have one jar of cloud mist tea left, which is reserved for the auditing elder who comes at the end of the year. That tea is so precious. Are you sure? You want to serve it to a mere young disciple? Have you lost your mind?" Lin Fan, I was so furious he almost kicked the man flying. The person before them was a Grand Elder. That auditing elder was nothing compared to her. "Do as you are told," he snapped. He turned back to Fang Chen and Qin Wangxuan with a warm smile, inviting them inside. "The outpost is rather short on supplies. I hope the two of you will not look down on our humble abode." Fang Chen sighed softly. Cloud mist tea was only considered a decent spirit tea within the sect, commonly drunk by disciples. The spirit tea consumed by deacons and elders was far higher grade. He never expected that in the seven-colored mine, cloud mist tea was the top tier spirit tea reserved for honored guests. Life at the outpost was indeed far harsher and more impoverished than he had imagined. Just then, Qin Wangshuan tugged at his hand, as if she had something to say. Fang Chen bent down, bringing his ear close to her, and heard a string of complaints. "Why are you being so polite to them? Don't you have the sect master's jade token? Just take it out, they would not dare disobey you. Why bother giving gifts and going through all this trouble?" So that was what she was asking about. Fang Chen smiled gently. "The sect master's jade token will only make them submit outwardly, not in their hearts. They will not wholeheartedly help you acquire the 7-colored profound ice." Furthermore, Fang Chen sighed softly as he glanced around the shabby, aged furnishings of the wooden cabin. "We are all disciples of the Qingxu Sect. They serve the sect in this remote frontier, yet their lives are so destitute. Offering them a little aid within my means is merely a small token of my regard." Upon hearing those last 2 sentences, Qin Wangshuan could not help but turn her head to size up Fang Chen, a faint glimmer of softness flitting across her otherwise cold, stern gaze. This outpost was founded with her own hands in years past, a product of no small amount of her blood and toil. She had never expected the personnel stationed here would live such an impoverished life as a result, and a faint sense of guilt stirred in her chest. Fang Chen's kindness towards these people naturally filled Qin Wangshuan with quiet gratification. Of course, as Qingxu Sect's most notoriously stubborn Grand Elder, she would never admit to it. She curled her lip and scoffed. "This is unnecessary." Fang Chen tapped her forehead lightly and said, "You have not a single ounce of empathy. Sit still and behave yourself later. No running off or running your mouth." Qin Wangshuan gritted her teeth. That bastard, was he getting addicted to lecturing her? Standing to the side, Lin Fanhai's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. Had he misremembered? In his memory, was this Grand Elder Qin not the one with the worst temper? To be lectured and tapped on the forehead by Fang Chen like this, and actually endure it, how much did she care for him to swallow her pride so completely? He hastily reminded Fang Chen, saying, "Junior brother Fang, let us speak calmly." Qin Wangshuan shot Fang Chen a glare, and said, "I will have the sect raise the stipend for outpost personnel as soon as I return." "Does that count as having empathy now?" Fang Chen laughed out loud. "Who would listen to you? I am better off writing a letter to report this to my master. If the disciples stationed here continue to live like this for long, they will gradually lose their sense of belonging to the sect, and no one can say what the end result will be. It is absolutely necessary that my master knows of the situation here." At these words, Lin Fanhai's body jolted violently, mist quickly welling up in his eyes. He grasped Fang Chen's hand tightly, his voice thick with emotion. "Junior brother Fang, thank you. I thank you on behalf of every single person at this outpost." In that moment, he could not contain his surging excitement. Countless Qingxu Sect disciples had come to this place over the years, but none had ever thought to do anything about their dire circumstances. Yet Fang Chen had volunteered to report their situation to the sect leader, filling his heart with sincere, deep gratitude. A faint smirk tugged at the corner of Qin Wangshuan's lips. Since Fang Chen was looking after the outpost she had founded so carefully, she would return the favor and help him earn a debt of gratitude. "There is no need for such formality, Deacon Lin. I shall write the letter right now." He penned a letter on the spot, detailing the true state of affairs at the outpost. At the same time, he placed the sect leader's personal jade pendant inside the envelope. When he saw the jade pendant, Lin Fanhai's body trembled once more. This was the sect leader's personal jade token, and he realized at once that Fang Chen had no need to stand on ceremony with them at all. "Junior brother Fang, if you need anything from me, Lin Fan, during your trip to the 7-colored mine, you only need to say the word. This senior brother will walk through fire and boiling water to get it done for you." Lin Fan was truly moved. Fang Chen smiled and handed him the letter. "Please trouble Deacon Lin to find a trustworthy person to deliver this letter back to the sect. As for this trip, this junior brother does have a small matter I would like to ask for your help with." He cupped his hands in a salute and said, "I heard that this mine produces 7-colored profound ice. I wonder if senior brother could give me some guidance on the matter." 7-colored profound ice, Lin Fan. I was slightly stunned. Only something of this caliber could make a disciple, favored even by the Grand Elder, personally travel to such a remote, desolate place. But when he thought of the information surrounding that particular piece of 7-colored profound ice, his brows furrowed deeply. "Is there no information about the 7-colored profound ice?" Fang Chen asked, his own brow furrowing. Lin Fan shook his head. "Only 1 or 2 pieces of 7-colored profound ice appear every few years. It is indeed extremely rare." Only a few days ago, a sect discovered a vein of 7-colored profound ice here, before Fang Chen could show his joy.
Lin Fan, I continued heavily, however, no one can mine that piece of 7-colored profound ice. As he spoke, he glanced at Qin Wangchuan, but still stood by his assertion.
A strange look crossed Fang Chen's face. Is it that the sect that found it is forbidding others from mining it, or is there another reason?
The first possibility that came to his mind was a conflict of interest. The 7-colored mine was mined jointly by the 9 sects. While each had their own designated territory, conflicts were still unavoidable. Lin Fan, I gave a bitter smile. In the past, it would indeed be the problem junior brother Fang mentioned, but this time is different. The one who found the 7-colored profound ice is the Taishang Sect. They are now begging the other sects to help mine it, but no one dares to go. Such a thing exists. A glint flickered in Fang Chen's eyes as he asked, "Is there something wrong with that piece of 7-colored profound ice?" Lin Fan, I nodded. It is not just a small problem, it is an enormous one.
With that, he turned and went to the back hall, bringing out a jade vial that was wrapped tightly in layer upon layer of sealing talismans. As he held it, Lin Fan, I was exceptionally careful, as though he feared he might drop and shatter it. This was originally prepared to be sent to the sect by my order. Since junior brother Fang has arrived, you may take a look at it first. Fang Chen took the bottle and glanced inside, only to see a mass of 7-colored aura swirling back and forth within the jade bottle. His eyes narrowed slightly. It looks like some kind of poisonous miasma. A flicker of surprise crossed Lin Fanhai's face. Junior brother Fang has remarkable eyesight to recognize it even through the jade bottle. That is correct. This is the poisonous miasma emitted by that 7-colored profound ice. Its toxicity is extremely fierce, and no one dares to mine that 7-colored profound ice due to its presence. The 7-colored mine has been mined for several decades. Logically speaking, disciples of various sects have encountered countless emergencies over the years, and should have long had experience dealing with such situations. How could they be helpless against an ordinary poison? After a moment of thought, he opened the jade bottle and released a wisp of the 7-colored poisonous miasma. The moment this miasma escaped, it seemed to possess consciousness, lunging straight toward Fang Chen, who was the closest to it. Qin Wangchuan's eyelids twitched, and she recognized it instantly. Watch out, that is the bone-corroding poisonous miasma. Even a supreme elder like her was extremely wary of the miasma before her. Yet Fang Chen neither dodged nor evaded. He reached out and grabbed, snatching that wisp of miasma into his palm as swift as lightning. This action gave Qin Wangchuan a great fright. Throw it away immediately. It will corrode your bones to dust. This poison is extremely ferocious. The moment it touches skin, it will melt through flesh and blood instantly, rot your bones, and cling to you like a maggot on the bone. Impossible to shake off. How could Fang Chen catch it with his bare hands? Lin Fan, I was also stunned by Fang Chen's action, his heart leaping to his throat. Quickly cut off the flesh on your palm. This poison is terrifyingly potent. Several disciples of the Supreme Sect have already lost their lives to it. Those who survived by luck were all ruthless enough to immediately cut out the infected flesh, sever the affected bones, or even chop off the entire limb outright. Anyone who hesitated was ultimately corroded into a cloud of ash. Yet Fang Chen slowly activated the poison core within his body. The bone-corroding poison clinging to his palm seemed to have encountered its natural nemesis, frantically trying to escape Fang Chen's palm through the gaps between his fingers in fear. But in the blink of an eye, it was completely absorbed by the poison core. The *9 poison True Sutra * he cultivates had even digested the bone marrow poison of a nascent soul realm poison dragon before. This tiny wisp of miasma was nothing in comparison. Not only could it not harm him in the slightest, it instead became nourishment for his poison core. This display left Lin Fan, stunned on the spot. Junior brother Fang, you are unharmed. Fang Chen spread open his palm, which was as smooth and unmarked as before, without a single trace of injury. How is this possible? Lin Fan, I grabbed Fang Chen's hand and examined it over and over carefully, saying in disbelief, "An elder of the Supreme Sect who came to handle this matter was accidentally touched by this miasma. And one of his fingers rotted off entirely, yet you are completely unscathed." Qin Wangchuan was also secretly surprised and could not help but glance at Fang Chen's danshan. Only she could sense what Fang Chen had just done. There was actually a mysterious object inside his body that specialized in devouring poisons. After pondering for a long while, she suddenly realized what it was, and was even more shocked as a result. This fellow actually cultivated the *9 poison True Sutra * of the 10,000 Swords sect. That can't be right. What has gotten into that old Qingxu kitten? How could she give Fang Chen her own main cultivation method, this earth, grade true sutra, and even let him successfully cultivate it? She stared at Fang Chen with a face full of suspicion. This fellow had hidden himself so deeply. This casual display of skill had revealed a massive secret.
Fang Chen put away the jade bottle and could not help but laugh. Steward Lin said just now that even when the Supreme Sect asks for people to mine that 7-colored profound ice, no one dares to go.
Lin Fanhai snapped back to his senses and immediately realized Fang Chen's intention, saying excitedly, "That's right, junior brother Fang, you are immune to this poison. You are fully capable of mining this profound ice. That's not all. That miasma has already spread to most of the Supreme Sect's territory. If no one takes away that piece of profound ice, the Supreme Sect's territory will be completely destroyed. Junior brother, you can absolutely negotiate terms with the Supreme Sect." Fang Chen chuckled softly. "That depends on who from the Supreme Sect comes to negotiate with me. If it is Shangyuan Sheng or a few other acquaintances, I will only take the 7-colored profound ice and nothing more. If it is anyone else, I will naturally add additional conditions." That report letter sent by the Supreme Sect's leader brought him and the Azure Cloud Sect a great deal of trouble after all. He could not let the Supreme Sect off too easily, unless someone came who was worthy of him showing face. At that same time, in the Supreme Sect's stronghold, Lu Ziyunian, the elder of Green Bamboo Peak, wore a dark expression. His index finger was wrapped in gauze, and the throbbing pain that came from it from time to time made him even more irritable. "Your demands are far too excessive." He looked dissatisfiedly at the young man in the room who was being treated as an honored guest. The young man possessed elegant, graceful bearing, wearing splendid embroidered robes, and was incomparably handsome. Standing in this old wooden room, he was as eye-catching as a scorching sun. Many female disciples could not help but steal glances at him. There were very few people with such charm across the entire 9-sects continent, and Zai Liushu, the chief disciple of the Joyous Union sect, was undoubtedly one of the most outstanding among them. It is not that this junior's demands are too high, but the reward Elder Lu is offering is far too little. A mere 10,000 spirit stones, and you expect this junior to risk my life to retrieve the profound ice that is the source of the poisonous miasma. Zai Liushu felt nothing but contempt in his heart, even if Lu Ziyunian was deliberately quoting a low initial reward to bargain.
How could he have the nerve to offer a reward of only 10,000 spirit stones?
Lu Ziyunian said in a deep voice, "Then what do you want?"
Zai Liushu said, "Naturally, it is that piece of 7-colored profound ice. I take the profound ice, the Supreme Sect's crisis is resolved, both sides are happy. Elder Lu may try to hire others, but
when it comes to resisting poisonous miasma, no one should be more skilled than my Joyous Union sect. Among the 9 major sects, there exists no sect that specializes in the study and manipulation of poisons. The Joyous Sect is a sect focused on heart cultivation, and many of its disciples also practice assorted unorthodox arts, with a considerable number boasting profound mastery of various toxicological principles. Zai Liushu stands as the most outstanding among them. Yet to hand over that priceless 7-colored mystic ice, just like that, filled Lu Ziyunian with immense reluctance. He spoke, "Name another demand, and I shall reconsider." Zai Liushu frowned, just about to speak, when a calm, indifferent voice suddenly drifted in from outside the door. "I also advise Chief Zai to think carefully before making your demand. A mere piece of mystic ice is far from enough." This was simply absurd. The Heavenly Supreme Sect was on the verge of losing its entire mine territory, yet Lu Ziyunian was still clinging to that 7-colored mystic ice, the root of all their misfortunes, and intended to send people away with a mere 10,000 spirit stones as reward. Did he take everyone for fools? At these words, everyone present turned their gazes toward the outside of the residence, and quite a few found the voice somewhat familiar. When a figure with hands clasped behind his back walked through the door with steady, measured steps, Zai Liushu's face immediately darkened. "It's you." To this day, he still could not figure out why Fang Chen had been placed on the sect leader's most wanted list for no apparent reason, and even more how he had managed to escape successfully despite the sect leader's manhunt. What boggled his mind the most was where Fang Chen had gotten the audacity to accept a mission right under the sect leader's nose before fleeing. The sect leader had flown into a towering rage over this matter, and several elders had been reprimanded as a result.
Innumerable disciples had also been caught up in the collateral damage.
Even he, as the chief disciple, had been charged with disrespecting the sect leader and locked up in confinement for 3 days, for no other reason than entering the sect leader hall with his left foot first. That day, panic swept through the entire Joyous Sect. Even the few guard hounds that usually roamed freely everywhere cowered in their kennels, not daring to come out, lest they pass by the sect leader and get slapped by her.
What Zai Liushu had never expected was that Fang Chen would appear before him alive and well, brimming with energy.
Chief Zai, I trust you have been well since we last met. Fang Chen smiled faintly. Zai Liushu gritted his teeth. Thanks to you, I am doing splendidly.
He did not act to teach Fang Chen a lesson for the sake of the larger picture. Of course, the primary reason was that he could not defeat him. He had seen with his own eyes how Fang Chen had slain the red-scaled evil flood dragon, which was at the second layer of the golden core realm.
It's you, another figure shot up from his chair abruptly, roaring through gritted teeth.
Fang Chen turned his head to look, and could not help but smile. Senior brother Wang, you are here as well.
Wang Yunj was seething with rage. What are you doing here? Fang Chen had easily defeated him during the Heavenly Supreme Sect's Grand Disciple competition, making him a laughingstock among all disciples to this day. He felt the shame of it day and night, and longed for nothing more than to avenge himself on Fang Chen at every moment. As if that was not bad enough, the man had actually come to his doorstep of his own accord.
Fang Chen said calmly, "Can you not tell? Naturally, I have come to resolve the troubles plaguing your Heavenly Supreme Sect."
Everyone in the room looked at him with skepticism, and Lu Ziyunyan's face was even darker. His favorite new disciple, Luo Tanjiao, and his most proud, accomplished disciple, Wang Yunj, had both been brutally beaten by Fang Chen, bringing utter disgrace to his green bamboo peak. What made this even more humiliating was that Fang Chen hailed from the Azure Cloud sect, which he had always looked down upon. Why would he ever hold a favorable opinion of Fang Chen? This is no place for you to cause trouble. Listening to that cold rebuke brimming with dislike, Fang Chen paid it no mind and said indifferently, "This junior is of limited talent, but I have dabbled a little in toxicology and wish to eliminate the hidden danger in the mine for the Heavenly Supreme Sect. Of course, if the Heavenly Supreme Sect is confident enough to resolve this trouble on its own, I shall take my leave immediately."
Lu Ziyunyan frowned. This fellow is also proficient in toxicology. He had never heard of anyone from the Azure Cloud sect being skilled in this field.
Wang Yunj felt extreme hostility toward Fang Chen and said, "Master, does our Heavenly Supreme Sect need to beg him for help? We have plenty of ways to resolve the poisonous miasma."
To him, Fang Chen was a thorn in his flesh, and he did not want to see him, even for a moment. Lu Ziyunyan narrowed his eyes and fell deep in thought. Of course, he also hated Fang Chen, and hated the idea of relying on him to save their mine territory that was on the verge of destruction. He could not confirm that Zai Liushu would definitely be able to retrieve that 7-colored mystic ice that emanated dangerous poisonous miasma, but since Fang Chen dared to volunteer, he must have some degree of confidence. If Zai Liushu failed, they would need Fang Chen to step in. After all, if Fang Chen could not do it, they had nothing to lose. What harm was there in agreeing?
Thus his furrowed brows relaxed. He tapped his finger on the table and said, "State your conditions." Fang Chen held up 2 fingers. "First, the 7-colored mystic ice belongs to me."
Before Lu Ziyunyan could snort in mockery, Fang Chen added, "Second, half of the Heavenly Supreme Sect's mine territory shall be given to my Azure Cloud sect."
As soon as his words fell, all the Heavenly Supreme Sect deacons and disciples in the room stood up, glaring at him furiously as they rebuked, "Insolence! Do you call this a condition? You might
well demand the entire Heavenly Supreme Sect for yourself. How dare you make such an outrageous demand?" Even Zai Liushu could not help but draw in a sharp breath. Even if this was haggling, Fang Chen was being far too bold in his demands. Half of the mine territory? How dared he ask for that?
Back when the sects were fighting over territories, the supreme elders of every sect had joined the battle, and they had fought until their heads were broken, and blood flowed to establish current territorial divisions. With one casual sentence, Fang Chen intended to take away half of the hard-won fruits of the supreme elders' labor. How could the Heavenly Supreme Sect ever agree to that?
Lu Ziyunyan laughed in anger, slamming his palm on the table as he roared, "Are you joking with me?"
As he roared, he suddenly noticed that a petite girl had appeared from behind Fang Chen at some unknown point.
She sat down on a nearby chair of her own accord, eyes closed, not saying a single word.
Lu Ziyunyan's pupils shrank violently, and he nearly bit off his own tongue in shock. Qin Wangshuan, the most hot-tempered supreme elder of the Azure Cloud sect. Back when they fought over the mine territory, she had fought the most ferociously out of everyone, and the mere mention of her name made several of the Heavenly Supreme Sect's supreme elders tremble.
Why had this old woman come along with Fang Chen? Lu Ziyunyan's face twitched for a while. He had originally intended to greet her, but noticed that Qin Wangshuan had her eyes closed and clearly had no interest in speaking to anyone, so he wisely chose not to disturb her.
When he looked back at Fang Chen, he was still hostile, but no longer dared to rebuke him as casually as he had earlier.
Your conditions are far too excessive. It is very difficult for me to agree to them,
Lu Ziyunian said in a negotiating tone, his eyes darting occasionally to Qin Wangxuan out of the corner of his eye.
Wang Yunj was stunned and gave his master a strange look. Was this not the time to kick Fang Chen flying out of the door? Why were they negotiating with him instead?
Master, Fang Chen is clearly here to cause trouble. This disciple suggests we throw him out, Wang Yunj said viciously. Lu Ziyunian's eyelid twitched. Your suggestion is very good. Don't make any more suggestions next time. He said expressionlessly, guests are to be treated with courtesy. Having one more person here is no bad thing. Fang Chen, take a seat. There is one more person coming. We shall discuss everything.
Once everyone has arrived. Xilius's eyes darted around thoughtfully. Besides him, had the Heavenly Supreme Sect invited other people? But among the 9 sects besides him, who else was proficient in toxicology?
No one knew how much time had passed when Fang Chen, who was holding a teacup, suddenly narrowed his eyes. The tea in his cup rippled layer upon layer, as if some massive tremor was approaching from afar.
The stern look on Lu Ziyunian's face softened slightly, as if brimming with immense confidence. He said calmly, "They are finally here."
Boom, a dull, deafening sound like the striking of a war drum, suddenly rang in everyone's ears. Boom. Boom, the sound grew closer, as if an army of armored cavalry was charging down from the heights. Boom. Boom, boom, it drew even nearer, like colossal elephants stomping the earth, shaking the very ground to its core.
All the tables and chairs in the room rattled, and the large wooden cabin creaked and groaned under the tremors, clearly on the verge of collapsing.
The cabin door was blown flying by a terrifying force, and a ferocious, surging Kai swept in, stirring up gale, force winds that sent sand and stones flying, grass and branches twisting wildly, as if the entire structure was about to be torn from its foundations. Immediately after, the light in the room dimmed abruptly. When everyone looked toward the doorway, they saw a colossus of a man, far larger than any ordinary human, standing there like an impenetrable iron wall.
He stood nearly 3 meters tall. The average person would not even reach his abdomen. Despite his immense height, he carried not an ounce of excess fat.
His bare upper torso was covered in rock-hard, bulging muscles, with thick, thumb-sized veins coiled across his skin like gnarled tree roots. He had a rugged, chiseled face and a pair of tiger-like eyes as large as bronze bells that emitted a chilling, imposing glow. His messy, jet-black hair hung loosely over his shoulders, giving him an air of unbridled, wild ferocity. The disciples in the room could not help but swallow hard. Even Wang Yunj, a top disciple of the Taishang Sect, felt as if the air had been sucked from his lungs. His face twisting with fear, he bowed politely and said, "Senior Brother Zhu, I trust you have been well." The man before them was Zhu Wanchang, the second, ranked disciple of the Giant Sect, a terrifying freak whose physical strength rivaled that of a cultivator at the second layer of the Golden Core
realm. Among all the cultivators of the same generation across the 9 sects domain, no one dared to fight him lightly save for Xia Keoj and the chief disciple of the Giant Sect.
Zhu Wanchang did not so much as glance at Wang Yunj, only cupping his fist in greeting toward Lu Ziyunian.
"I am Zhu Wanchang, a disciple of the Giant Sect. Greetings, Elder Lu." His voice was like rolling thunder, and in the cramped confines of the cabin, its force was deafening.
Everyone present felt their ears ring from the impact. A look of surprise crossed Lu Ziyunian's face. "There were rumors that you carry the bloodline of the ancient giants. I once dismissed it as hearsay, but it appears to be true."
While cultivators of the Giant Sect train their physiques to become exceptionally tall and sturdy, no amount of cultivation could grant such an inhuman form. It could only be the work of a bloodline.
Fang Chen raised an eyebrow slightly. Ancient giants. Do such beings still exist in this world? Chuan, who was sitting beside him, opened her eyes, glanced at Zhu Wanchang, and said calmly, "In ancient times, there existed a terrifying race of creatures. They stood 10 zhang tall. Possessed incomparably powerful physiques, were ferocious, and lacked spiritual intelligence." Fang Chen found this novel and asked, "Aren't they basically the same as demonic beasts?" Chuan scoffed. "Demonic beasts. Even a demon emperor was little more than rations for them." Fang Chen drew a sharp breath. Even demon emperors were their food. That was horrifyingly powerful. Chuan continued, "They devoured all living things, sweeping across the land like locusts, eating anything they laid eyes on. Countless great human cultivators were devoured by them, including many at the soul formation realm." Fang Chen's skin crawled. If even such powerful beings could not escape being eaten, what had become of them later?
Fang Chen felt a twinge of unease. If these creatures still lived, it would be a terrifying prospect indeed.
Chuan said later, all races rose up together and joined forces to fight the ancient giants. After a full 60-year war, they finally exterminated every last ancient giant. This event is
recorded in history as the 60-year Demon Purge. We do not know the casualties suffered by the other races, but every single human sage fell in battle, our ancestors were decimated, and the entire
human race was pushed to the brink of extinction. The prosperous civilization of humanity was shattered that day, and we have yet to recover our former glory to this day. Fang Chen's breath caught in his throat. The ancient human race had endured such a cataclysm.
It was fortunate that the ancient giants were all extinct. The thought of living in the same era as such creatures was enough to send chills down one's spine.
But then what of Zhuanchang? Fang Chen asked in surprise. A trace of disgust crossed Chuan's face.
Some cowardly humans took the initiative to drink the blood of ancient giants, evolving into half-giants. This way, the ancient giants would recognize them as their kind, and they would avoid being
eaten. After the war ended, certain human leaders acted out of mercy and spared their lives. As they reproduced, the ancient giant bloodline in their descendants grew thinner with each generation. By
Zhuanchang's generation, barely any of it remains.
Their forms are already very close to that of normal humans.
Fang Chen's brows furrowed tightly, and he said with some displeasure, "Mercy, that human leader got to show off his benevolence, but where is the mercy for the countless human compatriots who died horribly?"
Chuan glanced at Fang Chen with a solemn expression. When this topic came up, warriors of the current era either dared not voice their dissatisfaction out of respect for the ancient sages or fear of the power held by the half-giant descendants. Even she was considered an oddity among cultivators of her rank for openly expressing her disdain for that decision.
Fang Chen's attitude filled her with a quiet comfort, as if she had found a like-minded companion.
Well said.
Chuan slapped her thigh and exclaimed, "If it were me, I would have slaughtered every last one of those half-giants. They betrayed the human race when we were on the verge of annihilation. What is the point of keeping such traitors alive? That so-called human leader may have looked merciful, but his intentions were far from noble." Fang Chen looked at the indignant Qin Wangchuan in confusion and said, "Sometimes I really think you are no ordinary child. You know so much ancient history, and you can speak with such a profound
perspective on these epic events."
Chuan rolled her eyes at him, her little face pulling into a pout as she said, "You are just an unlearned fool. Don't go blaming others for being more knowledgeable than you." Having been lectured by a little girl, Fang Chen did not know whether to be angry or amused. "What are you two sneaking around whispering about?" Zhuanchang suddenly turned his cold gaze toward them, his voice booming like thunder in a harsh rebuke. Due to his ancient giant bloodline, his hearing was far sharper than that of ordinary humans.
Even though Fang Chen and Chuan were speaking in hushed tones, he had still heard every word they said.
Fang Chen wiped the smile from his face and said calmly, "We were not talking about you." He bore no ill will toward Zhuanchang personally. While the half-giants were loathsome, Zhuanchang had no say in his birth, so he could not be blamed for that.
However, the words that came out of Zhuanchang's mouth next made it impossible for Fang Chen not to despise him. "You were not talking about me, but you were talking about my ancestors." Zhuanchang looked down at him and snorted coldly. "My ancestors' reputation is not for you to desecrate. Kneel and kowtow to my ancestors to apologize."
Fang Chen shook his head, his expression still calm.
"Your ancestors' reputation, are you referring to their betrayal of the human race? As their descendant, you do not take shame in it, but instead take pride in it."
His dissatisfaction with that ancient human leader grew even stronger.
It would be fine if Zhuanchang was a single exception, but if all the half-giant descendants held this kind of mindset, that would be a truly terrifying prospect.
"Insolence, how dare you insult my ancestors as traitors?" This had obviously struck Zhuanchang's most sensitive nerve.
He snorted heavily through his nostrils and swung a palm toward Fang Chen's face. His arm was twice as thick as an ordinary person's, and his reach was extremely long. Though he appeared to be some distance away from Fang Chen, his palm could easily reach him.
The strike carried a terrifying momentum. All those present heard a sharp whoosh, and that palm, which was larger than Fang Chen's entire head, was already flying toward his face.
Wang Yunj was secretly overjoyed. "You dared to be so arrogant. Did you really think Zhuanchang is as reasonable as I am? Suffer this lesson well, you fool."
Zai Liashu's heart skipped a beat. Fang Chen is bound to suffer a loss this time. Unlike the red, scaled vicious flood dragon, whose power was greatly diminished after reaching the shore, the one standing before Fang Chen now was a genuine golden core realm second-layer powerhouse. And a body refinement cultivator at that. The power of this slap was far beyond what Fang Chen could possibly block. Lu Ziyunyan's heart missed a beat. Good heavens, someone dared to strike Fang Chen right in front of the Elder Supreme of Qingxu Sect. He had originally intended to intervene, only to notice to his astonishment that Qin Wangxuan had no intention of stopping the blow at all. This left him somewhat confused. Was he not worried that Fang Chen would be injured? Crack, a dull, thunderous sound exploded abruptly. Everyone assumed Fang Chen had taken a slap to the face, but who would have expected that Zhu Wanchong's massive palm was instead blocked casually by a hand as clear and lustrous as jade. The owner of that hand was none other than Fang Chen. No matter how mounting, collapsing the force behind Zhu Wanchong's slap was, Fang Chen's palm did not move an inch, firmly holding back the colossal hand. This scene made the pupils of everyone present constrict sharply. There were fewer than 10 people of the same generation across the 9 sects lands who could block this strike from Zhu Wanchong, yet Fang Chen had blocked it effortlessly. Zai Liushu clicked his tongue in secret awe. This fellow has grown stronger again. When fighting the red, scaled vicious flood dragon, Fang Chen was still somewhat strained, but now he can easily exchange blows with a golden core second-layer physical powerhouse with casual movements. What made his eyelids twitch even more was that Fang Chen was not circulating spiritual energy at all. He was also using only his physical body. Wang Yunj sucked in a sharp breath of cold air. He's this strong. Even if I poured every ounce of my strength into blocking that slap from Zhu Wanchong, I would not be able to stop it. At best, I would end up with every bone in my body shattered. Yet Fang Chen had caught it with a single raise of his hand. He had been planning to seek revenge on Fang Chen this entire time, convinced that he had turned his shame into motivation over the past month and improved his strength greatly. Only now did he realize how lucky he was that he had not made a move, otherwise he would have ended up in an even more humiliating situation.
The disciples in the room were all stunned. This was too absurd.
He was actually matching Zhu Wanchong blow for blow in physical strength without falling behind. He could even go toe-to-toe with the ancient giant bloodline. Lu Ziyunyan was also greatly shocked. In just 1 month apart, Fang Chen's strength had undergone a qualitative transformation. He could not help but glance at the calm, unperturbed Qin Wangxuan. No wonder she had not made a move. She had long known that Fang Chen possessed an astonishing physical physique and required no assistance. How could he know that Qin Wangxuan was also shocked at this very moment? No way. Wasn't this guy supposed to use the 9 poison true scripture? How was he hiding such a terrifying physical strength too? She was somewhat dazed. Back at the sect, wasn't it said that Fang Chen's physique was only just strong enough to defeat Huo Zainshan of the first golden core layer? What was happening now? He could easily exchange blows with a second golden core layer physical powerhouse already. While outsiders were shocked, Zhu Wanchong was even more stunned. A flash of awe passed through his rage-filled eyes. He had not used his full strength, but did Fang Chen look like he was using his full power either? Impossible. Across the entire 9 sects lands, apart from his eldest senior brother, there was actually someone who could fight him head-on in terms of physical strength. Sensing countless doubtful and shocked gazes fixed on him, he could not bear to lose face. He immediately shouted in a deep voice, "Stop putting on an act." His palm abruptly surged with power, but to his shock, he still could not shake the other party's hand in the slightest. Even more astoundingly, Fang Chen looked over at him with an entirely calm expression. "That's all you've got." He then flipped his palm, sending Zhu Wanchong's hand flying back with a violent jolt. Everyone was taken aback. Fang Chen had actually gained the upper hand. Even if there was a factor of Zhu Wanchong being caught off guard, this feat was still incredibly astonishing. Zhu Wanchong was furious. The physical strength he was so proud of was actually matched by a little disciple of Qingxu Sect. He immediately prepared to activate his ancient giant bloodline to properly teach Fang Chen a lesson. "All guests are welcome here. Let us speak properly if you have grievances." Lu Ziyunyan interrupted him in time. The Elder Supreme of Qingxu Sect was watching from the sidelines after all. If Zhu Wanchong truly dared to activate his ancient giant bloodline and injure Fang Chen, the other party would definitely not stand idly by. Unaware of this, Zhu Wanchong mistakenly thought Lu Ziyunyan was siding with Fang Chen.
He snorted heavily. "Out of respect for Elder Lu, I will spare your life for now. Once I resolve the 7 colored poisonous miasma, I will make you pay dearly."
A faint flicker of disappointment crossed Fang Chen's face. He had actually wanted to see how powerful the ancient giant bloodline Zhu Wanchong would unleash when pushed to his limit was. It was a pity that Lu Ziyunian, eager to protect him, had persuaded him to stand down.
Lu Ziyunian cast a hopeful gaze at Zhu Wanchong's colossal frame, stroked his beard, and said, "The ancient giant bloodline possesses the wondrous ability of being impervious to all laws and immune to fire and water, as well as a natural resistance to deadly poisons. Inviting him here was definitely a wise decision. Young Master Zhu, tell us what you want in return." Zhu Wanchong crossed his arms and said arrogantly, "First, the 7-colored mysterious ice belongs to me. Second, I heard your sect possesses the Bod High Pill formula, which I also want."
Bod High Pill formula. Fang Chen's heart stirred slightly.
The last time he had heard of the Bod High Pill was from the mouth of the Black Mirror evil spirit, who had said that it was a required item for cultivators at the 9th layer of Golden Core Realm. Break through to the nascent soul realm, it could increase physical strength and resist heavenly tribulation.
He was very interested in the Bod High Pill, but unfortunately lacked the formula.
Even though Fang Chen had blood Bod High and pill refining skills, even a clever housewife cannot cook a meal without rice.
A sharp glint flashed across Lu Ziyunyan's eyes, and he said, "The 7-colored mysterious ice is up for discussion, but forget about the Bod High Pill formula. This formula is kept by the Supreme Sect."
"Master, if your Giant Sect wants it, at the very least the sect masters of both our sects must meet and discuss it in person. You are just a disciple, don't involve yourself in this matter."
The implication was clear. The Bod High Pill formula was far too precious, and Zhu Wanchong's status was too low to be qualified to covet it. "Then, can you pass on my request? It would be fine even if I can facilitate negotiations between the two sects on this matter." Zhu Wanchong changed his condition. Clearly, he had not expected the other party to hand it over anyway. His only goal for this trip was to convey the Giant Sect's intention. Lu Ziyunyan's expression softened. "I can help pass on your message for this matter." He then turned his gaze to Zai Liushu and Fang Chen respectively, and said, "Since all of you want this mutated 7-colored mysterious ice, I will begrudgingly part with it. Whoever has the ability to excavate this 7-colored mysterious ice can take it away." Zai Liushu perked up slightly. "Now that's how you give people motivation." A faint glint crossed Fang Chen's eyes. "There is only one 7-colored mysterious ice. Does that mean we have to rely on our own abilities to claim it?"
Lu Ziyunyan stood up tall and said, "If the 3 of you are ready, follow me to the mine." He appeared calm on the surface, but was actually anxious in his heart. The 7-colored poisonous miasma had been spreading continuously, corroding a large number of 7-colored ores. These ores were now filled with deadly poison, turning into useless waste ore with no value. At present, the 7-colored poisonous miasma had only corroded the ores on the surface. Once they are excavated and removed, there will be no further issues. Should any further delay occur, the 7-colored poison will infiltrate the inner depths of the mine, rendering the entire ore territory of the Taishang Sect completely unusable. A full 30% of the Taishang Sect's spirit crystal revenue comes from the sale of 7-colored ore, and if mining becomes impossible, no one can bear the dire consequences. Thus, with no time to waste, he immediately led the group of cultivators to the eastern side of the 7-colored mine. This region boasts the highest yield of 7-colored ore, with its annual mining output 3 times that of the Qingxu Sect. There was no helping it. The 7-colored mine lies entirely within the Taishang Sect's domain. The other 8 major sects only managed to carve out a share of the mining territory after their respective Grand Elders joined forces and fought the Taishang Sect's Grand Elders all those years ago. The Taishang Sect, taking the most resource rich plot of land, was already the largest concession they could offer. Visible to the naked eye, this entire area is shrouded in a thick layer of 7-colored mist that writhes and squirms like a living creature, exuding an unsettling, eerie aura. Fang Chen was slightly taken aback. "Is all this 7-colored poison miasma?" Lu Ziyunyan nodded gravely, his expression heavy. Upon hearing this, Zai Liushu's face shifted drastically. "Elder Lu, did you not say the poison miasma was still extremely thin? The miasma before us is so dense that one cannot see even a single zhang ahead. This is the most ferocious poison miasma I have ever encountered in my life. Sending us in is nothing short of sending us to our deaths." Zai Liushu's face was full of wariness. The miasma before him gave off an extremely dangerous aura, and he no longer held the absolute confidence he had earlier that he could hold out long enough to excavate the 7-colored mystic ice. Zhu Wanzhong's gaze also grew heavy as he spoke displeasedly. "Elder Lu,
Even my ancient giant bloodline may not be able to withstand this level of poison miasma. This is a far cry from what you described in your message. Fang Chen stared at the roiling, surging poison miasma, and a faint flicker of wariness crossed his face as well. Even though he possessed the 9 poisons true scripture, he could not linger for too long in such thick toxic fumes, though excavating the 7 colored mystic ice would still pose little issue for him. Lu Ziyunian shook his head. I am a dignified elder of the Taishang Sect. Why would I lie to 2 juniors like you? When I sent you the message, the miasma was indeed still thin, but the poison trapped within that 7 colored mystic ice has been seeping out continuously. It has grown to this extent in a mere 3 days. His expression was heavy with worry. If they delayed any longer, no one knew how much more potent the miasma would become. If it seeped into the ground, this entire mining area would be completely ruined. Friends, what do you all think? Are you willing to give it a try? Give me a straight answer. Lu Ziyunian pressed impatiently. Zai Liushu hesitated for a long moment before speaking. Since we have already come all this way, of course we have to try. Zhu Wanzhong huffed through his nostrils. I too wish to test the limits of my bloodline to see how long I can withstand this poison. Seeing that the 2 people he valued most had made their positions clear, a look of relief and gratification crossed Lu Ziyunian's face. Finally, he glanced perfunctorily at Fang Chen. What about you? In his eyes, it did not matter in the slightest whether Fang Chen went or not. With the 2 previous cultivators on the task, success was all but guaranteed. Fang Chen stroked his chin thoughtfully and said, Going is no problem, of course, but I have 2 questions I would like answered first. The poison miasma is so dense that once we descend, we will not be able to see more than a zhang ahead. How will we orient ourselves? How will we find that 7 colored mystic ice? And if we fail, is there any contingency plan to help us escape the miasma quickly so that we do not meet with misfortune? These 2 questions made Zai Liushu quietly alert himself. Fang Chen was far more thorough in his thinking than he was. The poison miasma before them was easy to enter, but incredibly difficult to exit. He had nearly overlooked these 2 fatal issues. Lu Ziyunian shot Fang Chen a surprised look. Even though the boy was extremely unlikable to him, his careful and thorough approach to matters was clearly far superior to that of his peers. He nodded slowly and said, Since this elder invited you here, naturally, I will ensure your safety. He immediately took out 3 palm-sized compasses, their pointers glowing with faint cold light and shimmering in 7 colors. These pointers were forged from 7 colored mystic ice. 7 colored mystic ice has the special property of being drawn to other pieces of itself. The direction the pointer points is exactly where the 7 colored mystic ice we seek is located. You only need to follow the pointer, and you cannot go wrong. It turned out he had already made preparations. The orientation problem was solved, leaving only the matter of safety. If they failed, or after they excavated the 7 colored mystic ice, how were they supposed to escape? Lu Ziyunian pulled a bundle of glossy black thin threads from his sleeve and said, These are soft threads forged from extraterrestrial meteorite. They are indestructible, impervious to fire and water, and completely resistant to corrosive poison. When you enter the poison miasma, tie one end of the thread around your waist. When you wish to return, you can simply follow the thread back out. A curious look crossed Zhu Wanzhong's eyes. There exists such a thing. It is somewhat similar to the heavenly mountain silk threads the Heavenly Sect master possesses. He picked up a segment of the strand and pulled with all his strength with both hands. Faint bloodstains were carved into his fingers from the strain, yet even so, he failed to tear it apart. The look of astonishment in his eyes grew even deeper. This is truly a wondrous, rare treasure. Lu Ziyunian said with no small amount of pride, naturally, though this dark iron soft silk cannot compare to the heavenly mountain silk of the Heavenly Sect master, it is one of only 2 such soft silks across the entire 9 sects lands, boasting boundless miraculous uses. With it in hand, you may enter and exit without any worries. With that assurance, Zai Liushu and Zhu Wanzhong let go of all their misgivings, as both matters of orientation and safety had been fully secured. Next, it would come down to who possessed the ability to withstand the 7 colored poisonous miasma and successfully excavate the 7 colored profound ice. Fang Chen crossed his arms over his chest and asked, There are 3 of us. Shall we descend together or go one at a time? Zai Liushu and Zhu Wanzhong also realized this problem at once. If the 3 of them went together and dug up the 7 colored profound ice at the same time, who would it belong to? Surely they could not split it equally between 3 people. But if they went separately, who would go first and who last?
Those who went later would naturally be at a great disadvantage, for the first to enter could very well already take the 7 colored profound ice for themselves. Even Lu Ziyunian was stumped by this problem. His original plan was that Zai Liushu was invited first, and it would be best if he succeeded. If he failed, they would wait for Zhu Wanzhang to arrive. What he had not anticipated was that both of them would arrive at this location at nearly the same time, plus Fang Chen was also present. Deciding the order of entry for the 3 had become a thorny dilemma. Everyone wanted to go first, no one was willing to be last. In the midst of this deadlock, Wang Yunj spoke up. "Master, for the sake of fairness, let us decide by drawing lots. The order will be determined purely by luck, and no one can hold a grudge against anyone else. Though it is not an ideal solution, it is the only feasible one. What do you 3 think?" Lu Ziyunian looked towards the trio. The 3 exchanged a glance. Naturally, none of them were willing to concede ground, but other than testing their luck, there seemed to be no better alternative. Seeing that they had reached a tacit agreement, Lu Ziyunian picked up 3 small twigs of varying lengths, clenched them tightly in his fist, so only the 3 tips were exposed. The person who drew the longest twig would enter first, followed by the rest in descending order of length. "I go first." Zhu Wanzhang stepped forward first, shoving Zai Liushu aside to snatch a twig before anyone else. Zai Liushu rubbed his aching arm from the collision and quickly grabbed a twig as well. Fang Chen had no other choice. He took the last twig unhurriedly and said calmly, "This is a matter of pure luck. It does not matter in the slightest who draws first or last. There is no need to scramble for it." However, when the 3 revealed their twigs at the same time, Fang Chen's face turned green, and he muttered under his breath, "What rotten luck is this?" The twig in his hand was the shortest, followed by Zhu Wanzhang's, while Zai Liushu held the longest one. PFFD. Qin Wangshuan could not hold back and burst out laughing. Having been by Fang Chen's side for so long, this was the first time she had seen him suffer a minor setback. She teased, "Still going to act so calm next time, ha ha ha." Fang Chen glared at her. "He who laughs last laughs best. It is far from certain that they can even retrieve the 7 colored profound ice." Zai Liushu waved the twig in his hand proudly. "Brother Zhu, I will not stand on ceremony. I will descend first." With that said, he tied one end of the dark iron soft silk around his waist and leaped into the thick, roiling, poisonous miasma. The 7 colored poisonous miasma seemed to be a living entity, squirming immediately and surging towards him. The crowd watching from outside could make out Zai Liushu's approximate position from the direction the 7 colored poisonous miasma squirmed, watching as he raced straight towards the center of the miasma. Lu Ziyunian's eyes lit up slightly. As expected of the disciple most skilled in the way of poison among all the 9 sects, he could move freely within the poisonous miasma completely unhindered. He glanced down at his index finger wrapped in gauze. Even he, as an elder who leaped into the miasma relying on his profound spiritual power, had unfortunately had his finger corroded by the toxin. Yet Zai Liushu could act as if nothing was amiss, which proved that his attainments in the way of poison were truly extraordinary. Suddenly, Zai Liushu, who was moving at high speed, seemed to sense something. He abruptly halted his steps, then turned and fled at full speed back the way he came. Faint, terrified cries for help drifted over. "Pull me up quickly. This poisonous miasma is not right." Lu Ziyunian's countenance shifted slightly. Zai Liushu was the chief disciple of the Joyous Sect. If something happened to him right before Lu Ziyunian's eyes, how would he ever answer to the Joyous Sect? Hearing the cry for help, he did not hesitate for a moment, gripping the dark iron silk thread tightly and yanking it with all his strength. With a sharp gasp, Zai Liushu was wrenched flying out of the poisonous miasma, hurtling heavily towards the spot where the group stood. Lu Ziyunian moved on instinct to catch him, only to hear Zai Liushu cry out urgently, "Do not touch me, stay away from me." Lu Ziyunian immediately noticed that countless threads of 7 colored poisonous miasma clung to Zai Liushu's body like swarms of ants, coiling tightly around his flesh. This made Lu Ziyunian's scalp prickle. Having suffered greatly from such poisons before, he darted back at once, shouting at the same time, "Everyone stand back." A flurry of movement erupted as the crowd scattered and retreated as far as possible. Fang Chen had the fastest reaction of all. He had already been on guard the moment Zai Liushu came flying out of the miasma. He activated his movement technique in an instant, grabbed Qin Wangshuan, and relocated dozens of Zhang away in the blink of an eye. With a dull, heavy thud, Zai Liushu crashed into the ground. The 7 colored miasma clinging to his body splattered outwards in all directions upon impact. Several disciples were caught off guard. The miasma landed on their bodies, eating through their robes instantly and moving to seep into their skin.
Shrill screams and agonized howls rang out one after another, merging and echoing across the clearing. Some quick-witted disciples ripped off their robes immediately, avoiding having the miasma touch their skin. Those who reacted half a beat slower were eroded by the 7 colored miasma, their skin rotted at once, the poison burrowing deeper into their flesh. With no other choice, the unharmed fellow disciples nearby drew their swords and hacked off the poisoned flesh without hesitation, only barely saving their lives. Lu Ziyunian was not spared either, but he reacted quickly, tearing off the blue outer robe he wore.
Zhu Wanzhong was already completely unclothed, and his large frame made for an easy target. 4 or 5 streaks of 7 colored miasma splattered onto his body.
He remained completely calm. A tremor ran through his body, and a faint flow of purple blood coursed through his veins, forcefully expelling all the 7 colored miasma from his body. Aside from a few scorch marks left on his skin, he suffered no serious injuries. In the span of a single breath, the entire scene descended into chaos. Lu Ziyunian's expression was grave as he demanded, "What happened? Why did you suddenly turn back?" Zai Liushu chugged down several vials of unknown medicinal liquid. The 7 colored miasma burning his skin was snuffed out as quickly as a flame hitting a wall of ice. Only a few dark red scorch marks remained on his pale, unblemished skin. Zai Liushu wiped the thin trickle of blood from the corner of his mouth, left from his heavy fall, and spoke, still trembling with residual terror, "This poisonous miasma is not a natural occurrence." Only then did the crowd notice that the scorch marks on Zai Liushu were far denser on his face and over his heart, with far fewer on the rest of his body. What did this mean? It meant the miasma was actively targeting his vital points with intent, his head and his heart. Naturally occurring 7 colored miasma could never behave this way. It was clear someone was controlling it. Zai Liushu stared into the depths of the miasma with a dark expression. "If I hadn't called for help immediately, I would have perished in there." A chill ran through the crowd. The dense scorch marks on his face and over his heart, proof of the miasma's targeted attacks, were more than enough to confirm his words were true. Lu Ziyunian's face darkened, and he shouted thunderously into the miasma, "What cowardly cur dares to cause trouble on the territory of the Taishang Sect? Show yourself at once." He found it most peculiar. Why did these poisonous miasmas only spread across the mining grounds under the territory of the Taishang Sect, not drifting even an inch in any other direction? It turned out an unknown entity was manipulating them from the shadows. He had assumed the other party would not dare respond. To everyone's shock, the poisonous miasma roiled violently, condensing into a pair of eyes brimming with mocking disdain. What made all present blanch in alarm was that the density of the poisonous miasma surged at a terrifying rate, a blatant provocation. "Who in the world are you?" Lu Ziyunian roared furiously. Fang Chen stared at the poisonous miasma as he walked back slowly, musing, "It may not be a human being." A chill ran down everyone's spines upon hearing that. Not a human, then what could it be? Fang Chen glanced around at the poisonous miasma and said, "Anyone capable of manipulating such a vicious miasma without suffering harm from it would at the very least be a grandmaster of the poison path. No such figure exists across the lands of the 9 sects." His words made perfect sense. It could hardly be some outsider from beyond the realm who came all this way just to release poisonous miasma on Taishang Sect territory for no reason. There was no enmity between them, so such an act was utterly pointless. A look of astonishment crossed Lu Ziyunian's face. Not a human, then what is it? In truth, both he and everyone present already had an answer in their hearts. They simply dared not confirm it. Fang Chen stroked his chin and said, "There is a type of demonic beast called a mist demon. It is innately transparent and can manipulate poisonous miasma to harm others. Based on the description given by Chief Zai, the entity that attacked him is highly likely to be a mist demon." Mist demon, Lu Ziyunian murmured the name under his breath. He suddenly noticed that the 7 colored poisonous miasma that had been provoking him just moments ago had gradually grown still, as if it had grown fearful. His eyes lit up immediately. "You actually guessed it right. It truly is a mist demon. Does this beast have any weaknesses?" Fang Chen replied, "Fire." Lu Ziyunian chuckled. What a coincidence. This elder brought a great number of fire-attributed talismans on this trip. He reached into his sleeve and pulled out a thick stack of talismans of all varieties, every single one of them infused with flame attack powers. "A puny mist demon dares to cause trouble on the head of my Taishang Sect. Be gone." With a flick of his wrist, all the talismans were activated. They whizzed through the air, covering the sky as they slammed into every corner of the poisonous miasma. With a sharp whooshing sound, a sudden miserable shriek rang out from a corner of the miasma. Visible to the naked eye, an irregular mass of poisonous miasma had been set ablaze by a ball of fire, twisting wildly as it let out shrill, agonized howls. Before long, as the flames engulfed it entirely, it collapsed with a thunderous crash, burned completely out of existence by the fire.
Lu Ziyunian let out a long breath of relief. Daring to provoke this old man, you were courting death. With the culprit eliminated, Lu Ziyunian was in an excellent mood and graced Fang Chen with a rare smile.
Thank you greatly for your help this time. I will report back to the sect later and send a gift of gratitude to your Qingxu Sect.
Fang Chen waved it off indifferently, gazing at the smoke-shrouded miasma zone, and said, "If you truly wish to thank me, let me go in first. Now that the mist demon is dead, there should be no more danger left." Zhu Wancheng snorted through his nose. "It is not your turn yet." He grabbed one end of a black iron soft cord and tied it around his waist, an expression of unshakable resolve on his face as he leapt into the poisonous miasma. His enormous frame was like a towering iron pagoda, crashing through the seven colored miasma and scattering it in all directions, forcibly carving out a visible path. Any miasma that clung to his body was easily shaken off the moment he activated his ancient giant bloodline. Aside from leaving some stinging burn marks, it could do him no real harm. Zai Liushu's face was twisted with unwillingness. Damn it, he got the better end of the deal. If it weren't for that mist demon, the seven-colored mystic ice would already be mine right now. Lu Ziyunian stroked his beard and praised. He is almost at the seven-colored mystic ice. This time, success is all but guaranteed. Wang Yunji's face was brimming with envy. As expected of one bearing the bloodline of ancient giants, he truly has unparalleled means to counteract vicious poisons. That is the priceless seven-colored profound ice, and he has obtained it just like that. But when he glanced at Fang Chen not far away, he could not help but gloat. If I were you, I would never have told them how to deal with the Mist Demon. Look how things have turned out now that Mist Demon is eliminated. He can take the ice as easily as picking an object from his pocket, with no obstacles left in his path. Fang Chen crossed his arms, frowning slightly as he spoke. He may not be able to take it. That Mist Demon's entire goal was to hoard this seven-colored profound ice, so how could it not leave deadly traps on it? Taking it will never be that simple. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, under the tense, watchful gazes of the crowd, Zhu Wanzhong finally felt his way to the center of the toxic miasma, the exact location of seven-colored profound ice. The corners of Lu Ziyunian's lips curled upward. It is done. It seems Zhu Wanzhong is indeed far more skilled. To last a full cup of tea's time in such terrifying poison, it is simply unbelievable. He was immensely relieved that he had invited Zhu Wanzhong, bearer of the ancient giant bloodline, otherwise resolving the trouble here would have been nothing but a distant, unattainable hope. PFFD, suddenly, the center of the toxic miasma erupted like a raging volcano, spewing forth a mass of miasma so thick it was nearly solid. Its concentration was over 10 times that of the surrounding miasma, horrifyingly dense. As it scattered downwards, it quickly merged with the existing miasma, causing the overall toxicity to skyrocket drastically. In mere moments, Zhu Wanzhong's agonized screams rang out. Immediately after, his colossal frame came sprinting back along the black iron soft wire, his momentum resembling that of a spooked giant elephant. Before long, Zhu Wanzhong burst out of the toxic miasma, his appearance so gruesome it made every onlooker's scalp tingle. His entire body was covered in countless rotting patches, crowded densely together, with not a single inch of unharmed skin remaining. Most terrifying of all were his hands. All flesh and blood had been corroded away, leaving only blood-soaked bone claws. Were it not for the protection of his ancient giant bloodline, even his bones would have melted to slag. The moment he escaped the miasma, he lost all strength and collapsed to the ground with a thunderous crash. A closer look revealed his eyes were unfocused. He had inhaled far too much toxic miasma and lost his clarity of mind, only making it back by dint of sheer, unyielding willpower. Lu Ziyunian paled in shock, hurriedly pulling out a high-grade healing medicinal pill and stuffing it into his mouth. Only then did Zhu Wanzhong gradually regain consciousness, successfully clinging to his life. "What happened?" Lu Ziyunian asked, his voice trembling with shock and uncertainty. Zhu Wanzhong spoke with immense difficulty. Beneath that seven-colored profound ice was a mass of liquefied toxic miasma. The moment I moved the ice, it erupted. If I had not activated my ancient giant bloodline in time to block 90% of the miasma, I would have been reduced to a pool of blood already. Lu Ziyunian snarled in fury. That damned mist demon. He glanced again at the miasma, which had grown several times denser, and called out, "Zai Liushu, do you still dare to venture down?" Zai Liushu felt a faint, gripping dread and replied, "I shall try." He swallowed several bottles of specially formulated detoxifying spirit liquid, took a deep breath, and stepped to the edge of the miasma, sticking a single finger inside. Sizzle, a sound like corrosive poison eating through metal, rang out instantly. Zai Liushu yanked his hand back as if struck by lightning, gasping sharply in pain. His finger had been corroded to a bloody mess, and he scrambled back in terror, putting as much distance as possible between himself and the toxic miasma. He spoke, still visibly shaken. The toxicity of the miasma has increased several times over. This junior is unable to offer any further assistance. The 7 colored profound ice may be tempting, but one must have the life to take it. The erupted miasma had already far surpassed his maximum tolerance limit. Lu Ziyunyan's face was as dark as storm clouds. Zhu Wanzhong was gravely injured, Zai Liushu was helpless, the miasma had erupted, and it would soon contaminate the deeper layers of the mine. It felt as if the sky itself was collapsing. Lu Ziyunyan sighed bitterly towards the heavens. These mines supplied 30% of the Taishang Sect's entire spirit stone income. He dared not imagine what cataclysmic upheaval would be triggered when the news of the mine's destruction reached the sect. He, the elder sent to handle this crisis, would be the first to bear the blame, and he would not escape severe punishment. The suffocating weight of impending doom made his vision go dark, and he staggered unsteadily on his feet. Just then, a faint, calm voice sounded in his ear. "I will try." Lu Ziyunyan collected himself and saw that the speaker was Fang Chen. The faint glimmer of hope that had just risen in his eyes immediately faded. If even Zai Liushu and Zhu Wanzhong could not succeed, what could this young man possibly accomplish? Fang Chen said nothing, walking straight to the edge of the toxic miasma. He rolled up his sleeve and stuck his entire arm inside. A faint burning sensation spread through him as the poison seeped into his body through his pores, but before it could cause any damage to his meridians or organs, it was completely absorbed by the poison core in his dantian. 3 breaths later, Fang Chen pulled his arm back. It was still as fair and unmarked as before, with not even a trace of a burn left. It seemed there would be no problem. This shocking scene made Lu Ziyunyan's old eyes widen to the size of saucers, and his previously suffocating despair immediately turned to wild, unbridled joy. You are actually this resistant to poison? Zai Liushu wore an expression as if he had seen a ghost. No way. Has this fellow also cultivated a poison cultivation method? The injured Zhu Wanzhong lifted his head in shock, his bell, like eyes blown wide. How could he be completely unharmed? Is my ancient giant bloodline actually inferior to his poison technique? The Taishang Sect's outpost disciples, who had already fallen into utter despair, all erupted in thunderous cheers. There is still hope. Our mining area can still be saved. Joy spread across Lu Ziyunyan's face, and he stepped forward excitedly. Fang Chen, please, we beg you to take action and remove that 7 colored profound ice. As long as you take it away, you may do with the 7 colored profound ice as you please. But Fang Chen was in no hurry and spoke calmly. Elder Lu, have you forgotten? I have 2 demands. The 7 colored profound ice is only one of them. Only then did Lu Ziyunyan remember Fang Chen's other demand, that half of the Taishang Sect's territory here be ceded to the Qingxu Sect. That is impossible, Lu Ziyunyan retorted flatly. Even if I agree, the sect master will never approve. Fang Chen stood with his hands behind his back, gazing at the vast mining area being steadily eroded by the toxic miasma, and said, I think otherwise. If the Taishang Sect master knew the gravity of the current situation, he would definitely want you to agree. Losing the entire mining area, or losing only half, even a child could make such a simple choice. Lu Ziyunyan hesitated. Qin Wangchuan shook his head and said, What a fool! Do you not want to think what fate will befall you when you return to the sect if you just stand by and watch the entire mining area be destroyed? Hiss, Lu Ziyunyan jolted awake, finally realizing the crux of the problem. He might incur the sect's displeasure if he made a unilateral decision to cede half the territory, but if he let the entire mine be destroyed when he had the chance to save half, the sect would fly into a thunderous rage, which consequence was worse went without saying. I agree. Fang Chen smiled faintly, took out paper and ink, and wrote the agreement on the spot. As the elder with full authority to handle the miasma crisis in the mining area, the agreement signed by Lu Ziyunyan could not be denied by the Taishang Sect. Once both parties had affixed their signatures, Fang Chen smiled slightly. Wait for my good news. He grabbed one end of the black iron soft wire and tied it around his waist, then quietly took out the heavenly silk thread, tying one end firmly to a large rock. He would never entrust his life to someone else's belongings. This heavenly silk had been proven in countless battles and was far more reliable. With all preparations complete, he leaped into the roiling toxic miasma. The searing toxic miasma that burned flesh on contact came rushing at him. forcing its way in through every pore, mouth, nose, and ear. But once they entered Fang Chen's body, they were all absorbed by the poison core before they could cause any harm. Fang Chen held a compass in his hand, walking quickly in the direction indicated by the pointer. In only half the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, he smoothly arrived at the very center of the toxic miasma. Then he spotted the moved 7, colored profound ice. It was only the size of an infant's head, perfectly round, exuding an astonishingly terrifying cold aura. Streams of 7, colored poison seeped out of it endlessly, while in the spot where the 7, colored profound ice had originally rested, some liquefied 7, colored poisonous miasma remained. That was how Zhu Wanzhong had fallen for the trap earlier. This is a windfall for me. Fang Chen smiled faintly, bending down to pick up the 7, colored profound ice. But the poison behind him suddenly swayed eerily, and from an irregular mass of poisonous miasma, a sharp claw abruptly protruded, stabbing fiercely at Fang Chen's back with full premeditation. It was soundless, formless, and left Fang Chen no time to react at all. PFFT, however, just as the mist-formed claw was about to strike Fang Chen's back, a purple light pierced through the air without warning from the distant fog, penetrating it in an instant. A pained shriek, like that of a wounded leopard, immediately reverberated through the surroundings. This irregular mass of poisonous miasma fell to the ground, writhing in agony, as grayish, black blood oozed from the wound pierced through by the purple sword. Fang Chen raised his hand and beckoned, and the purple sword flew into his palm. His expression was slightly cold. I long suspected you were faking your death, Miss Demon. As it turned out, Lu Ziyunyan's fire talisman had not killed it at all. It had merely put on an act for everyone present, aiming to make those who came after let down their guard. Zhu Wanzhong fell for the trick, moving the 7, colored profound ice without any precaution, and was struck by the trap laid by the mist demon. Ever since Fang Chen entered the poisonous miasma, he had been on constant guard against it. When he neared the 7, colored profound ice, he secretly stationed his purple sword nearby. The moment the mist demon revealed its true intentions, he activated his sword control technique to deliver a fatal blow. This time, it could no longer fake its death. Chirp, chirp, chirp. The mist demon let out a piercing shriek, struggling to crawl toward the 7, colored profound ice. Fang Chen tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, flicking the 7, colored profound ice up, and stuffed it directly into the prepared pouch. Too bad, it's mine now. At the same time, he raised his sword and struck. Under the edge of the all-cleaving purple sword, the mist demon's body was split clean in two. It let out a violent shriek, and the two halves of its body trembled violently once before gradually ceasing to struggle, thoroughly dead. With the item secured, Fang Chen immediately turned to head back the way he came, but halfway there, he suddenly felt his waist go loose. He reached down to feel it, and was shocked to find that the black iron soft wire had snapped. His countenance changed drastically. Though the black iron soft wire was not as tough as heavenly mountain silk, it was still an extremely rare and precious oddity. Otherwise Lu Ziyunyan would not have treated it as a treasure possession. It could not break easily, unless something extremely sharp had cut through it. At the same time, Lu Ziyunyan, who was holding the other end of the black iron soft wire, also suddenly felt the taut wire go slack. He immediately sensed something was wrong and tried yanking it hard, only to pull back a greatly shortened length of the black iron soft wire. It broke. Shock flashed in Lu Ziyunyan's eyes. When he saw that the cut edge was perfectly smooth, as if made by some kind of slicing weapon, his face turned grim, and he shouted, Fang Chen, come back at once. There's something else. In the poisonous miasma, he dared not yell the other thought that crossed his mind for fear of frightening Fang Chen. This thing was 10 times more dangerous than the mist demon. Lu Ziyunyan could not even imagine what could cut through the black iron soft wire. Even he would be in danger if he encountered it personally, let alone Fang Chen. He did not need Lu Ziyunyan's warning, for Fang Chen had already sensed the presence of danger. Fortunately, he had not lost his sense of direction, as there was still a strand of heavenly mountain silk tied around his waist. Cutting off my escape route, are you trying to trap me here to die, or wear me down slowly? Let me guess, you don't dare attack me head on because you fear this sword in my hand, don't you? He narrowed his eyes, scanning his surroundings. His field of vision had shrunk drastically as the concentration of the poisonous miasma spiked, now covering less than a zhang of space. When he stepped forward, he could only see the heel of his extended foot, and could not even make out where his toe was. Under such circumstances, even if an enemy was half a zhang away from him, he might not be able to detect them. The surroundings were dead silent, with only the poisonous miasma shifting continuously, making it impossible to distinguish anything. Was there an enemy nearby?
This suffocating, tense atmosphere alone was enough to drive most people mad. And the foe was waiting precisely for the moment Fang Chen lost his rationality. However, Fang Chen remained completely calm, unhurriedly untying the long wooden case from his back. He slapped it open with one palm, then took an ivory, white gyukin into his arms. "Let me see what you really are, tiger roar, dragon cry." Fang Chen gave a low shout and plucked the strings decisively, playing sharp, ears, splitting notes that carried overwhelming force. At first listen, it was like an ancient flood dragon surging out of the depths, letting out a deafening, resonant roar right beside one's ear. The moment the notes rang out, the surrounding air roiled. Terrifying sound waves set off billowing gusts of Kai, spreading outward in all directions with Fang Chen at the center. The thick, congealed 7-colored poisonous miasma was forcibly blown away, revealing a circular cleared zone with a diameter of 10 zhang. Even the ground was as if it had been plowed over by an ox, covered in long, smoking craters carved out by the sound waves. Fang Chen noticed that 2 zhang away from him, a puddle of 7-colored blood lay on the ground. There really had been something hiding near him earlier, and it was only 2 zhang away, practically face to face with him. If he had not decisively unleashed this indiscriminate, attacking, sound path cultivation method, he would have been in grave danger. At the same time, a white cloud drifted past in the sky. Hidden within the cloud was a flying spirit beast, with master and disciple Lin Yuheng and Huan Qingxu sitting on its back.
Yuan Qingxu gnashed her teeth and said, "See that, master? You see that? I wasn't lying. This bastard really does no sound path cultivation methods."
Her face was flushed with excitement. She could finally prove that she had not lied, and this little bastard had finally exposed himself. Lin Yuheng stared down at Fang Chen, who stood holding the gyukin in the midst of the poisonous miasma, a look of stunned disbelief on her face. She had come here, based on intelligence from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, to eliminate the demonic beast lurking here. She never expected that just as she arrived on the back of the flying spirit beast, she would witness a sudden upheaval in the center of the poisonous miasma. An unknown, powerful sound wave had forcibly dispersed a large swat of the poisonous miasma, revealing the figure of a human. And that person was none other than Fang Chen. What was he doing in this place? Lin Yuheng clicked his tongue in amazement.
Yuan Qingxu said dissatisfiedly, "Master, is that the point? The key is that he actually knows a sound Dao cultivation method."
Lin Yuheng glared at her and said, "Quiet, it is merely a sound Dao cultivation method, far less bizarre than you make it out to be." This demonic beast was a fully mature 7-colored poison toad, the source of the toxic miasma. Its strength reached the 4th layer of the Golden Core realm, making it a great demon king of the mid-Golden Core stage, and was far beyond what he could contend with.
"I have to go down to help him."
However, the corner of her eye caught a figure that appeared to be a 6-year-old child outside the miasma, and her expression froze instantly. "So Elder Taishang Sect of the Qingxu Sect is also present here. It seems my trip was unnecessary. But why hasn't she made a move? It can't be that she's tempering Fang Chen's strength, right? Is she not afraid that Fang Chen will be killed during the process?"
"This is a 7-colored poison toad."
Yuan Qingxu stood behind her with her arms crossed, her face flushed red with anger. "Master, rest easy. That 7-colored poison toad might not even be able to subdue this little monster. Just wait and see."
Lin Yuheng poked her between the eyebrows and reprimanded, "What has gotten into you to hold such a grudge against this new disciple? I have already told you that the one who injured you was someone
else. It cannot be him." Yuan Qingxu was so furious that her teeth gnashed loudly. "Fine, keep your eyes wide open and witness this little monster's true strength. If you aren't scared half to death later, I will eat that 7-colored poison toad raw." Fang Chen held his gyukin, making his way back unhurriedly along the heavenly mountain silk thread. When he was nearly approaching the poisonous miasma area ahead, he unleashed 6 strikes of * Tiger's Roar, Dragon's Chant * once more, clearing a full 5 zhang of the poisonous miasma before him. Repeating this method, every time he advanced several zhang, he would cast the sound Dao cultivation method once, preventing the unknown hidden creature from daring to approach easily. After a full span of time equal to drinking a cup of tea, Fang Chen had slowly traversed more than half the journey and was already not far from the position of Lu Ziyunian and the others. If he persisted a little longer, he would successfully escape the poisonous miasma zone. However, the closer he got, the more vigilant Fang Chen became, for his intuition told him that the creature had been waiting for an opportunity, waiting for Fang Chen to let his guard down to deliver a fatal killing blow. Now it was a contest of who possessed greater patience. Clearly,
with Fang Chen being so cautious and on the verge of escaping the poisonous miasma. The one who finally lost their patience was the creature hiding in the shadows. When Fang Chen unleashed his Sound Dao cultivation method once again to clear a patch of area, the poisonous miasma to his right rear suddenly surged violently, and a scarlet afterimage so fast it was invisible to the naked eye, struck like lightning. Fang Chen focused his gaze and could not help but startle in fright. It was actually a sticky, tentacle-like long object as thick as an arm. Its speed was so extreme that Fang Chen had no time to counterattack at all. But he had been on guard long ago, his movement technique ready to be activated at any moment. Whoosh, in an instant, he soared 10 zhang away in a single step. The spot where he had been standing exploded with a bang, punched into a crater by that long object, which then rapidly retracted. In the clouds, Lin Yu, Heng exclaimed in shock. Movement technique. He actually masters a movement technique, and can cover 10 zhang in a single step, which is even more superb than yours, Qingxu. Heavens, don't movement techniques require extremely high comprehension. How could he possibly know one? Ryuan Qingxu crossed her arms over her chest and huffed coldly. The shocks for you are just getting started, master. Inside the poisonous miasma, the ferocious beast missed its first strike and shot out another scarlet strip-shaped object. This time, Fang Chen had time to react, overwhelming Dragon's regret. The multicolored energy had long been primed at his fingertips. When the scarlet strip struck, he decisively unleashed the final stance of the asterisk heaven cripple finger asterisk. With a whooshing sound, a multicolored beam of light shot from his fingertip, striking the long strip directly. A pained roar immediately rang out from within the poisonous miasma, and the long object was hastily retracted as the creature felt the searing pain. Earth-grade finger technique. A shocked exclamation from Lin Yuheng rang out from within the clouds. An Earth-grade sound path cultivation method was already astonishing enough. How is he also hiding an Earth-grade finger technique? But this was far from over. Fang Chen pressed his advantage, pinpointing his opponent's location through its roar. He immediately rubbed his palms together, the purple sword spinning rapidly between them as he activated his sword heart. Whoosh! The purple sword blurred into a streak of afterimage, piercing through the toxic miasma in an instant. Roar this time, the creature was truly wounded. It let out a furious roar, churning up a vast swat of poison as it charged straight for Fang Chen. Sword control technique. Did I see that right? That is the sword control technique. From within the clouds, Lin Yu, Heng let out a shrill, horrified scream as if she had seen a ghost. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst a series of earth-shattering roars, Fang Chen finally saw what was attacking him. It was a colossal toad standing 10 zhang tall, its entire body covered in iridescent 7, colored skin dotted with countless dense bumps, seeping 7, colored poison from its maw nonstop. Its scarlet, bloodied, mangled tongue dangled limply outside its mouth, unable to retract. That viscous, long object from earlier had been its tongue all along. 7, colored poison toad. Fang Chen's scalp tingled. Why of all things did it have to be this cursed creature? Without a moment's hesitation, he activated his movement technique and retreated along the Heavenly Mountain silk thread, heading for the area just outside the toxic miasma, not far away. A fully mature 7, colored poison toad possesses the cultivation of the 4th layer of the Golden Core realm and wields several incredibly troublesome innate attacks. Its tongue is merely its most basic offensive method. This kind of troublesome foe is best left to Lu Ziyunian to handle. He needed to retreat immediately. How could the 7, colored poison toad let Fang Chen escape? Its body shuddered, and fist-sized 7, colored little poison toads burrowed out from the dense bumps all over its skin. Screeching loudly, they rained down toward Fang Chen. Wandering dragon palm, Fang Chen did not dare to hold back. His palms moved like coiling dragons, unleashing palm strikes that carried the faint roar of dragons, sending every approaching small toad flying. These small toads may be tiny, but every single one can self-destruct, with each blast equal to a full-powered strike from a Golden Core realm cultivator. Raining down in such dense numbers, even a mid-stage Golden Core cultivator would be unable to withstand them. He actually knows an Earth-grade palm technique too. From within the clouds, Lin Yu, Heng let out yet another shocked exclamation. Seeing every single one of its small toad offspring sent flying by Fang Chen, the 7, colored poison toad flew into a complete rage. A low, guttural roar rumbled in its throat, and it dropped low to the ground, digging its hind legs into the dirt as deeper and deeper growls built in its chest. Fang Chen's expression shifted. It was about to unleash a powerful innate attack. The 7, colored poison toad kicked off with its hind legs, its seemingly bloated and cumbersome massive body surging forward at an incredible speed. By the time Fang Chen reacted, its enormous maw had already enveloped him. A single snap of its jaws, and its terrifying bite force would crush Fang Chen into a pulp. At the critical moment, Fang Chen roared loudly, "Thunder Dragon Lightning Leg." Thunder dragons immediately coiled around his legs, and he slammed a foot into the 7-colored poison toad's lower jaw. Boom! A thunderclap, as loud as a bolt from the blue, erupted, and ferocious lightning instantly pierced through its lower jaw, leaving a huge, charred, bleeding hole in its wake. Just as the toad's upper jaw came crashing down, Fang Chen tucked his hands to his waist and slid nimbly out through the bleeding hole, dropping safely out from under its chin. From within the clouds, Lin Yu Heng gasped sharply, "Thunder Path Cultivation Method. That is truly the Thunder Path Cultivation Method of the righteous Thunder Sect." Her face was filled with stunned shock. Movement technique, sound path cultivation method, palm technique, thunder path cultivation method, sword control technique. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed that a single person could cultivate so many earth-grade cultivation methods at once. How is this even humanly possible? "Master, what do you have to say now?" Yuan Qingxu cupped her full chest with both hands, her fair neck tilted high, her face overflowing with obvious grievance. The unspoken meaning behind her words was clear. "You owe me an apology." Lin Yu Heng's expression froze. She finally realized that Yuan Qingxu had not lied from start to finish, not a single word. The person who had beaten her half to death was indeed Fang Chen, and he really did cultivate the cultivation methods of both the Heavenly Sect and the Righteous Thunder Sect at the same time. Was proficient in several Earth-grade cultivation methods, and had even inherited the true sword control technique legacy of Senior Zhu Qingyang. Qingxu, this is not the time to talk about that. Fang Chen is in danger. Let this master rescue him first. We can discuss this later. Just as she was about to dive down, the 7-colored poison toad, driven mad by the searing pain of its pierced lower jaw, roared repeatedly and lowered its head to spit a jet of 7-colored liquid at Fang Chen, its deadly venom. Lin Yu Heng's face paled drastically. No, the venom of the 7-colored poison toad is so potent even late-stage golden core cultivators can barely resist it. Yuan Qingxu also jumped in fright. Fang Chen would be corroded into a puddle of slime by that toxin. A scene that left both Lin Yu Heng and Yuan Qingxu dumbfounded unfolded. The massive spray of 7-colored venom doused Fang Chen completely, yet he acted as if nothing was wrong. Seizing the opportunity, he activated his movement technique and fled at top speed, moving even faster than a startled rabbit. Even the 7-colored poison toad froze for a moment, as if questioning its own existence as a toad. This venom was the aged, concentrated poison it reserved for slaying its deadliest foes. A single mouthful would turn even a 7th-layer golden core cultivator into a puddle of pus on the spot. It had rampaged across the demon realm for countless years, and had never seen anyone survive its venom unscathed, yet Fang Chen had run off completely unharmed. For a split second, it even wondered if it had spat out the wrong substance. When it came to its senses, it roared repeatedly in humiliated fury. Outrageous, it, the dignified 7-colored poison toad, had repeatedly suffered losses at the hands of a mere human junior. Howling with rage, it gave chase after Fang Chen. But in that short span of time, Fang Chen had already successfully escaped the toxic miasma zone. At the same time, he rapidly circulated his poison core, absorbing every last drop of the venom on his body without wasting a single bit. From within the clouds, Lin Yu Heng was completely stunned. Wait, that's the 9-poison True Sutra of the 10,000 Swords Sect. He cultivated that too, and even mastered it. Yuan Qingxu gaped in shock. That little deviant even practices a poison cultivation art. At this moment, even Lin Yu Heng looked at Yuan Qingxu with lingering fear in his eyes. Your life force is truly absurdly tenacious. You actually managed to escape with your life after crossing paths with him. In my view, even a cultivator at the 3rd layer of the Golden Core realm would be doomed to certain death if they faced him. Yuan Qingxu's face twisted with lingering fear. It seemed Fang Chen had not fought with his full strength when he attacked her back then. At the very least, he had not used his formidable physical prowess or poison cultivation art. Otherwise, 9 times out of 10, she would already be fertilizer for the surrounding flowers and plants by now. But Yuan Qingxu suddenly snapped back to her senses and spoke with a piteous, wrong tone. Master, the culprit has been found. You must uphold justice for your disciple, right? That deviant Your disciple within an inch of my life. At this thought, she ground her pearly white teeth, huffed through her delicate nose, and thought to herself, little bastard, your end is nigh.
Just wait and see how my master crushes you, ha ha ha. Who would have expected Lin Yu Heng's face to turn stern as he said, "What deviant? That is your future junior brother."
Ryuan Qingxu's eyes nearly popped out of her head. Master, what do you mean? You intend to take him as your disciple?
Lin Yu Heng looked down at Fang Chen on the ground, his eyes glowing with fervent greed. Is that even a question? A heavenly pride of this caliber would be able to compete with those legendary geniuses even in our Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. I encountered him by my own good fortune. How could I let such an opportunity slip? When the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion opens its disciple recruitment, I will immediately take him as my apprentice. Even a single moment of hesitation would be disrespectful to such a monstrous talent. Ryuan Qingxu felt the urge to spit blood. How could such a ridiculous plot as her sworn enemy becoming her junior brother happen to her of all people? She spoke unwillingly. Then, what about the debt of him beating me? How do we settle that? Lin Yu Heng huffed irritably. Squabbling between senior and junior disciples is perfectly normal, is it not? Why are you holding such a petty grudge? You have no magnanimity at all.
That is not just squabbling. He beat me to a pulp. I nearly lost my life. And what senior and junior brother? We are not even related by sect yet.
Lin Yu Heng said, since Supreme Elder Qin Wangxuan is here, we shall not linger any longer. When the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion opens its recruitment, I will return to find Fang Chen. Let us go.
With a sharp cry, their spirit avian tore through the sky and departed. On the ground below, Qin Wangxuan glanced up faintly at the departing avian, then turned her gaze to Fang Chen and said, "You little rascal are surprisingly strong."
The events that had unfolded inside the poison miasma had not escaped her notice. She had originally planned to intervene only when Fang Chen faced a life-or-death crisis, but she had never expected that Fang Chen would not only hold his own against the 7-colored poison toad,
but even gain the upper hand multiple times. This greatly exceeded all her expectations.
Fang Chen had no time to pay her any mind. He dashed over in a single bound, grabbed her, and fled far away. No sooner had they escaped the area than the 7-colored poison toad roared and charged out of the poison miasma, hell bent on hunting Fang Chen down to the death.
The moment it burst out, it came face to face with the scowling Lu Ziyunian.
Excellent. I was wondering where the poison miasma came from, and actually thought it was a mutation of the 7-colored mystic ice. It turns out you cursed beast are behind all this.
Because of the toad, he had been forced to cede a piece of 7-colored mystic ice, lost a huge stock of tools and ores contaminated by the poison, had his most prized black iron soft silk destroyed, and even lost half his territory for nothing. All of this was the fault of that damned toad. The 7-colored poison toad was stunned. Wait, there are so many people outside, and even a late-stage golden core realm human elder. Its pupils shrank sharply as it scrambled backwards in a panic, trying to flee back into the poison miasma. Lu Ziyunian struck out in a rage, raising his sword and slashing down viciously. PFFD, how terrifying was the full-force, wrathful strike of a late-stage golden core cultivator. A long, sharp sword kai sliced the 7-colored poison toad clean in two from top to bottom, slaying it with a single blow. Even so, Lu Ziyunian was still not satisfied. He lashed out with dozens more sword strikes, hacking the 7-colored poison toad into mincemeat before he stopped. Beast, Lu Ziyunian grew angrier the more he thought about it. A mere toad had caused him, and the Taishang Sect, catastrophic losses. Fang Chen watched with a look of deep regret. The 7-colored poison toad was a walking treasure trove. The venom secretion from its bumps in particular was a top-grade medicinal material that could save lives. However, his gains were still substantial. He had successfully excavated the 7-colored mystic ice and also obtained half of the Taishang Sect's mine. Elder Lu, since the matter has been settled, it is time you fulfill your earlier promise, Fang Chen reminded him. Lu Ziyunian glowered over at him, extremely reluctant to keep his word. But with Qin Wangxuan watching from the side, he had no way to renege on the agreement.
He glanced at the rapidly dissipating poison miasma. Lu Ziyunian spoke through gritted teeth. From today onwards, this mine will be split along the east-west line. The eastern district belongs to my Taishang Sect, and the western district belongs to your Qingxu Sect. Fang Chen cupped his hands in salute. Thank you. This junior takes his leave. Having claimed all his rewards, he dared not linger any longer in front of Lu Ziyunian and quickly fled the scene. Watching him leave, Zhu Wanzhong slammed his fist against the ground in bitter resentment. Damn it. He got the 7-colored mystic ice. That is an essential material I need to advance my ancient giant bloodline, Zai Liushu said with a schadenfreude grin. Then you can go rob him, can you not? Zhu Wanzhong huffed. If I were not injured, you bet I would.
Zai Liushu smiled and said nothing. Robbing Fang Chen, that was simply asking for a quick death. The fact that Fang Chen could fight that ferocious toad for so long without sustaining a single injury was already a feat he could scarcely imagine anyone of his generation achieving, save for Zio, Keoj, and the chief disciple of the Asura sect. At the Qingxu Sect outpost, Lin Fan, I paced back and forth inside the wooden hut. He had no idea how junior brother Fang was faring. Whether he managed to obtain the 7-colored mystic ice was secondary. The most important thing was that he did not get injured. Just then the whinny of a horse rang out. Lin Fan. I hurried outside to check and spotted Fang Chen's carriage. The heart he had been holding in his throat finally relaxed. Junior brother Fang, you are finally back. Hurry inside and rest. Fang Chen lifted the carriage curtain and said, all business here is concluded. I shall not disturb Deacon Lin any longer. Farewell. Lin Fan I was filled with disappointment. He had intended to host a grand feast to thank Fang Chen, yet the latter had departed in such a hurry. Fang Chen said, this agreement must be personally delivered to the Azure Cloud sect by Elder Lin. Depart immediately, no delays are permitted. Fang Chen handed the mind transfer agreement to Lin Fan Hai, and at the same time solemnly took out the sect leader's jade pendant. Lin Fan Hai replied with a solemn expression, understood. Once the handover was complete, Fang Chen departed in a sweeping motion, leaving Lin Fan Hai holding the folded agreement, his face filled with mixed emotions. The disciples standing by only dared to grumble discontentedly after confirming they had gone far. In the end, he's no different from those others, wielding a sect token to order people around. It's just a letter. Is it necessary for Elder Lin to personally escort it? There are so many matters here waiting for you to handle, Elder Lin. Lin Fan Hai was also somewhat helpless. Sending a letter was such a trivial task. Ordering an elder to handle it was indeed a waste of talent. But considering that Fang Chen had pleaded with the sect leader on behalf of their predicament, he held back his displeasure. Forget it. I will make the trip myself. It is nothing more than a bit of hardship. Carrying a trace of reluctance in his heart, he casually opened the folded agreement. When his gaze swept across the contents, he cried out in horror, Thigh, this is a mining area transfer deed. The disciple leaned over and asked confusedly, Elder Lin, what is a mining area transfer deed? Lin Fan Hai snapped back to his senses, slammed the agreement shut, and said, don't ask, prepare horses at once. This agreement must be sent back to the sect via the 800 Lie urgent dispatch channel. It's that important. The disciple was startled, and hurriedly went to prepare the horses. The disciple said, but Elder, after you leave, what about the mine? Whether we continue mining or not, there are procedures that require your personal oversight. Lin Fan Hai snapped, to hell with the mine. His mouth went dry, his mind filled with the earth-shattering contents of the agreement. The Supreme Sect was gifting half of the mining area to Azure Cloud Sect for free. This was an unprecedented, heaven-shaking event. How could he bother with a mere few days of mining? For Fang Chen to entrust such a critical matter to him, a low-ranking elder, was the highest show of trust. This was an opportunity for him to prove himself before the sect and earn merit. Understanding Fang Chen's true intention, Lin Fan Hai was overwhelmed with gratitude. Junior brother Fang, you are my greatest benefactor. Hooves clattered lightly as Fang Chen set off on his journey to the Asura sect. Is this the 7-colored profound crystal? Inside the carriage, he took out a piece of 7-colored profound ice the size of an infant's head and marveled at the iridescent glow emanating from it. This profound ice was exceptionally cold, but it did not freeze flesh. It froze spiritual power. Holding it in the palm for a few moments would cause one to feel their spiritual power circulation blocked. One of the main materials for the clear void elixir was now in his possession. Fang Chen thought to himself. Chuan glanced over, curled her lips, and said, you went to so much trouble for this useless rock. Only people from beyond the domains would value this sort of thing. Fang Chen pinched her cheek. Little girl, didn't you claim to know everything? Where did that arrogant air from before go? You don't even know the wondrous uses of 7-colored profound ice. It can not only be used for alchemy, but also to forge powerful offensive magical artifacts. Most importantly, it can awaken the hidden potential of one's bloodline. It is actually an extremely precious treasure. Chuan's face showed astonishment. The 7-colored profound ice mined by all sects every year was sold to forces beyond the domains at exorbitant prices, and its uses had remained unknown to this day. She never expected Fang Chen to reveal the truth so casually. However, I find something odd. Fang Chen held up the 7-colored profound ice and said, why would the 7-colored poison toad and the mist demon risk certain danger to venture deep into the human hinterland to covet this 7-colored profound crystal? What's more, they clearly could have taken the colored profound crystal away, so why did they set up a toxic miasma and stand guard near it instead?
Could there be some hidden mystery within it? He activated his ocular power and peered deep into the 7-colored profound crystal.
Upon careful inspection, he indeed discovered something unusual. There seems to be a blood vessel inside. It's still beating. It's a living creature. Fang Chen was greatly shocked.
Chuan also looked over in astonishment. How is that possible? But when she peered carefully, she truly found a blood vessel-like object inside, which turned out to be a natural bloodline. Chuan cried out in shock. I can't believe it. Such a thing actually exists in this world.
This is a divine treasure formed when the essence blood of a soul formation realm demonic beast drips onto a spiritual object and is baptized by the sun and moon over countless years. It is said to possess 1/10 of the innate divine ability of the owner of the essence blood. She stared at it longingly, her eyes filled with desire.
Fang Chen handed the profound ice to her. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Chuan was stunned for a moment, then asked, Really? Of course not. Fang Chen smiled. Just by its name you can tell it's a precious treasure. I'm obviously keeping it for myself. Crack. Chuan's small pink fists clenched so tight that her knuckles popped. She had never been so provoked in her entire life. It seems those 2 demonic beasts wanted to absorb this natural bloodline, but they were stopped by us before they could succeed. Fang Chen stroked his chin with a smile. Bring it to the Giant Sect. I'll find a chance to dispose of it. Since the natural bloodline is formed from demonic beast essence blood, naturally only demonic beasts can use it, but that's no problem. The Giant Sect practices all sorts of chaotic body refinement cultivation methods. They even eat blood corpse worms. This natural bloodline might even be a treasure to them. A few days later, Fang Chen finally arrived at the outer city of the Giant Sect. Compared to the quiet and desolate Azure Cloud City, Giant City was packed with people and extremely bustling. It was filled with disciples of the 9 great sects, members of martial arts families from all over, and people from all walks of life, to the point that the city's public order had deteriorated severely, with theft, robbery, and fraud occurring everywhere. Just as they entered the city, they saw a chaotic scene of a group of people chasing a fugitive. All right, let me off here. Qingxu let out a long sigh of relief, finally able to get rid of this little brat. Heaven knew how frustrated she had been the entire journey. Where is your relative? Fang Chen looked around. In such a chaotic city, he dared not let Chuan off the carriage casually before someone came to pick her up. Qingxu curled her lips. You're so naggy. She planned to point at a random mansion to send Fang Chen away. Unexpectedly, a hoary old voice came from the diagonal front. You're finally here. We old folks have been waiting for you for ages. Fang Chen followed the direction of the voice and spotted a bald 80-year-old elder striding towards Qingxu, laughing heartily. He wore a black tunic embroidered with patterns of copper coins, gold ingots, and other such motifs, a round cap perched on his head, and had a bulging potbelly. His eyes disappeared entirely when he smiled, cutting the figure of a wealthy squire. Fang Chen was abruptly stunned. He had forgotten, ever since he entered the martial cultivation world, how long it had been since he last saw such a tackily dressed country squire. Out of caution, he held Jaka's hand and asked, May I ask who you are, sir? The elder looked at the two of them and couldn't help muttering to himself. This old hag used to fly into a rage if anyone treated her like a child when she was young. Now that she's half in grave, she actually likes this sort of act. Fang Chen could not hear his muttered words, but Qingxu caught every single syllable clearly. Qingxu's face flushed red. She yanked her hand away from Fang Chen and said reproachfully, You may leave now. This is a relative of my family. Relative? The corner of the old man's mouth twitched. Who would dare lay a hand on a relative of the Azure Cloud Sect's little tyrant dragon? He was Qingxu, the Grand Elder of the Thousand Forging Sect. For this occasion, each of the 9 great sects had dispatched a Grand Elder to Giant City to discuss a matter of utmost importance. The Grand Elders of the other 8 sects had all arrived, with only Qingxu nowhere to be seen for a long time. He had waited specially at the city gate, keeping watch for several days before finally spotting her. Only then did he understand why Qingxu had arrived so late. She had brought a dead weight along the entire journey. It would be a miracle if she were not slow. Young man, you may take your leave. Seeing that Fang Chen did not seem to know Qingxu's true identity, Qingxu cooperated to smooth over the awkward situation. Fang Chen frowned slightly. He did not even know this old man's name or place of residence. How could he dare hand Jiachuan over to him? I must see a good deed through to the end. Dare I ask where you reside, venerable sir? I will personally escort Jiachuan there. Who? Qingxu was stunned for a moment and nearly burst out laughing. the renowned little tyrant dragon had actually been given a cutesy nickname like Chuan. No, this is far too hilarious for him to keep to himself alone. He had to let the other old fools hear of this too. Qin Wangchuan stamped her foot anxiously, grinding her teeth as she spoke. Hurry up and leave, don't embarrass me here. She dared not even imagine the scene where Fang Chen called her Chuan in front of the group of old curmudgeons. Fang Chen frowned and said, "Stop being childish. I will leave only after I have escorted you to your home. Please lead the way, venerable sir." Yu Yingchen was delighted to watch Qin Wangchuan's embarrassment, his eyes crinkling into slits from laughter. Very well, come with me quickly." Qin Wangchuan was so flustered and angry that she gritted her pearly white teeth tightly, but she did not wish to reveal her true identity in front of Fang Chen right now, so she could only try to stop him along the way. However, to Fang Chen, she was merely throwing a petty tantrum, so he paid her no heed until they finally arrived before an extremely grand and imposing manor.